Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you be maybe watching this transmission. It is I, Mike Martins, your housing discussion guru, housing discussion. Man, I've been talking about housing it's going to be 9 years next summer that I've been talking about the abnormalities in the housing market, that I've been talking about the bizarre underlying things happening in the housing market. And I want to thank all the people that have been following me for all these years now. Also want to thank all the support that everyone's been giving me. I want to thank everyone that's been tipping me. Oh my god, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. Also, I would like to thank everyone that comes on the show. Without people on the show or guests coming on the show, it means zero. It means squat. It means nothing. You know what I'm saying? Broadcasting from Merritt, British Columbia, Mike Martins here. The date is the 10th of October. 11th of October for most of the world, 2018. And we are in Q4. Yes, we are in Q4. Allah is in the comments there saying, "You are the best. Thanks, Allah." And everybody has a chance to be on this channel or on this show. Nobody is everybody's allowed to come and voice their opinion in this crazy, ludicrous housing market we are going through. It is affecting every human being. It doesn't matter if you're couch surfing. It doesn't matter if you're renting. It doesn't matter if you own. It doesn't matter if you're moving. It doesn't matter if you're on the sidelines waiting to buy. It's affecting every human being. It is affecting people from getting married. It is affecting people from having children. It is affecting people from everything. From everything. The Lost Canuck is in the comment section, guys. Before we kick off anything, I want to thank Metro Vancouver Housing Collapse. Formafist is part of this. I think the Lost Canuck is in this too. Gary Medeiros, two-time world champ. I think he's in this one too. Guys, I really want, if it's okay, if you guys could go to Metro Vancouver Housing Collapse. Let them know that I sent you guys. Please join this one. Bill Ferguson is the administrator on this page, and it's because of him that people get to share their stories on. He's got a long acknowledgement here, but it's because of him. People have a chance to share their stories, and a lot of people talking about the stock markets here. People talking about financial household stress. People talking about different data points here, macros. And just posting on houses that have been slashed. And yep. So guys, it's Metro Vancouver Housing Collapse. Don't forget to join them, please. It is a great group. Another one I want to plug out there is Toronto Housing Market Crash. I am part of this group. So is the Lost Canuck. The Lost Canuck is also there, and so is a couple of friends I have here from this friend of mine from Israel. She actually follows my channel, and a couple of people here. So there's a couple of people. Oh, there's Joe. So a lot of people here following that follow my channel are on this too. So guys, don't forget to join Toronto Housing Market Crash. It only has 579 people following. It should be a lot more following this with what is happening in our housing market and this disgusting housing market, this bizarre transformation that is happening. Anyways, I got Corinne here. I'm going to get her on the phone. Corinne's been wanting to be on the show for a while to give us her experience. She wrote paragraphs to me, but right now we are going to talk to Corinne. Hello?
Hi.
Oh my goodness, I could see you there, but that's okay. You can put on.
I know.
That's okay.
I took it off. It's fine.
Well, thank you for coming on Trends in the Housing Market. And
well, thank you for having me.
Well, no, thank you. This show is being broadcasted, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the show, from Australia to the UK, down to the United States, up to Canada, every English-speaking country, unifying every English-speaking country with the same problem, and it's housing. So,
yes.
tell us, what is going on in your neck of the woods?
Well, my God. Well, I was living in Vancouver for the last 6 years, and I just drove across Canada, came back to Montreal for a little short period of time, but it's obviously a little bit more affordable to live here.
Yes. What happened in Vancouver? Because I did put up a couple of videos of reasons why I left Vancouver. I think that's the one you saw. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Tell us, why did you leave Vancouver? What happened?
There was a few different things. I used to be a store owner, actually. I used to have my store on one of the main street there in Vancouver. It has been quite popular, and I've had my store for about 4 years, and the last, I would say 3 years, things started to slow down up to the point where I had only about 2 people a day coming in my store. And one of the big thing was mostly because the neighborhood changed, has people starting to have children. They couldn't really afford to have either buying clothing, because it was a clothing store. Either they couldn't buy clothing anymore because it was too expensive to live, or they just literally left town. I had a lot of my customer were coming in, just telling me that they were definitely leaving, going in a smaller town, going in Alberta or something else, because they could afford to have a house and they could afford to, have children and still going to work. So yeah, that was one of the big things that I've actually had to live in my store for about a year, on the ground on my mattress, to be able to afford the rent of my retail store, because I just couldn't have a salary. So I lived there for about a year.
Oh my goodness, I am, wow. Yeah, I've heard of stories like that where people, I mean, if it's a nice clothing store, I wouldn't mind sleeping in there myself, right? So, but,
well, it depends, because you don't have a wash. I didn't have a shower. I didn't have a kitchen or anything. So, yeah, it was a nice clothing store. But I don't know. When customer comes in your only place where you live and do everything, sometimes you just really don't have any private space, right?
Yeah, no, I hear you. So you notice a lot of families moving out. I did the same thing. I realized that I wasn't making headway, and I bailed. I just said, you know what? If I'm just not going anywhere. So it's either I move to a small town in Canada, or I just move back to Portugal with my family. That's it. And yeah. So how are things? Have you seen the property market starting to heat up there? Because I know there's a lot of bidding wars now in Montreal.
I am not here for long enough. I know it started to go up. I mean, obviously, we're not to the same place as Vancouver, but I've heard that for sure. Yeah, I'm just here for a week and a half now, so I wouldn't tell. But obviously, there's a lot of properties that I look at the prices, and it has come up quite a bit compared to what it was before. I myself had a house in a city north of Montreal before I left about 6 years ago, but it was a time where the economy crashed at the time, and I remember when I was trying to sell, maybe one house on Fort were for sale because people couldn't afford to buy a house or anything like that. So at the time, I again lost everything I had. So it was my second time, but it's kind of hard. It's not easy. It's not easy.
So you basically drove across Canada to Vancouver, opened up your establishment, and you. Did you notice the soul of Vancouver leaving? Did you notice it, how it changed? Like, because I felt when I was living in Vancouver that the city had no soul. Or am I just delusional?
No, I said that many times. Yeah, it's very difficult. I've tried to, I spent many years trying to figure it out, because when I actually moved there first, my first reason was because I was going for acting. I was trying to pursue acting at the time, and in Montreal, even though we had a lot of things going on, we still had our own vision of acting, which I wasn't completely in love with, so I decided to do and try the English market, because I'm French, first language. And so I went there, and the first year was great, and then after that I had a really, really hard time, but I met somebody, so I was kind of stuck there. And so I really tried to find why I felt like that, so I could actually survive and stay there and be happy still. And I came with that feeling of a lack of culture. I think Canada has a big lack of culture, and I studied acting, and I really see the impact of my my culture here, where we have televisions and magazines and everything is related to us, like most people you look on TV actually looked like me, and they were talking like me, and they were teaching me life. And when you go in Vancouver, there's nothing like that as well. It's very, very new, and the only thing that they can relate to is like social media or mainstream USA. So it's very superficial. It's really trying to look like a certain things. And for the people that I spoke to, what I felt was that they had a really big problem to
Meet someone?
to not. Yeah, that was one thing for sure. Yeah, you know what? There's actually that we're changing subject, but it's funny because I had a lot of conversation with customer, obviously, when they came in my store, and a lot of girls were like, "Yeah, we're decided to go in Montreal." Some of my friends went there, and after about 2 months, they were like in a long-term relationship where in Vancouver they couldn't find anyone. I was like, this is really sad. But you know what? I met a lot of nice guy. I would say in Vancouver though. I think there's a lot of miscommunication between people and a lot of expectation from each other that are hard to reach on both sides. So that's one of the things.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of my problems there was I'm too short. I'm like 5'6", 5'7", and a lot of the women there they don't even touch guys under 5'10". And
I've heard that. This is one of the funniest thing I've never heard, because like I've always been with guys that are my height, and I'm like 5'4", and I'm just like never understood. I know I don't know. I can't. I'm sorry. I don't know how to explain that for sure.
yeah, unfortunately, that was the big problem. So
that's interesting.
Yes, and okay. So tell us. Are you doing okay in Montreal now? Do you have a business there?
I'm working on something else, and that was the reason why I came back, because I'm more on the artistic art entrepreneur side of it, and obviously this is a lot of hours without salary. And when I closed my store, it was last year. I went to Mexico for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came back to Vancouver after that, and I've had jobs, managers in stores and all that kind of stuff, and I could afford to live there, but it just wasn't me, and I had to really make that decision of leaving, because the rooms that I was renting was about $1,000, and I had a roommate. So it just was incredible. And like the insurance for your car is like $200 a month, which makes no sense to me. So all in all, I just couldn't start a new business there for sure.
Okay. So Mexico, what state did you stay in?
Oh, I was in Quintana Roo. I actually, you know what? I actually left there. It wasn't my plan. I've never really wanted to go and live there, but I knew somebody who owned a real estate company, so the first thing I wanted to do was to go and sell houses, actually, which was really funny. And it wasn't a good timing, so I ended up doing something else, but I was in Playa del Carmen, so stream life next to the beach and stuff, which was pretty expensive, actually.
But did you notice how when you went into the small towns, how people were humble and they loved each other and they had souls?
Yeah, yeah. It's still like that in Montreal, I think, so far. I've seen a change, though. I will admit that I see change I think social media has an impact on it. But the ad soul, I know. The ad soul. You know what? When I was in Vancouver, that's the funniest thing, though, because everyone's struggling so much with money. And when I was living in my store, I have lots of friends or people that I knew, but I found that it's becoming such a place where you fight for yourself that I didn't really had any. I felt that even if I was going to live on the street, it wouldn't really change anything for people. You know what I mean? I've had really good friends. I'm not talking about them necessarily, but I just felt it. You know what? It's the first time in my life where I discovered that if you don't have money, you're actually no one, and I could actually really understand the point of view of people that are born in poor family and feel like it's just really hard to get out of it, because you just are nothing if you can't pay for yourself. It feels like your identity is kind of really messed up, which is really bizarre, because I was working more than anyone else, and I just couldn't have a salary. You know what I mean? It's kind of really weird, but that's the reality of things. So, but yeah, in Mexico, people that didn't even know me would totally just, say, hey, come to my place and whatever. It was really, really super friendly. Like, it's human beings together, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
You see, when I used to go to, if I went to a Mexican funeral, everybody would be together crying. If I went to a funeral like here in Canada, and everyone's fighting over the money.
Yes. It's, oh my God, you tell me about it. I lost my family because of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I know what you're talking about.
so, and what are your plans going forward? Anything special?
Well, my big goal now is to develop my online business,
Mm-hmm.
which is a personal development school based on my entire life of challenges,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually want to travel the world with this. You know, that's the good thing now. You can have you don't need a space. You can work from your house or anything, and then I'll just want to visit around the world. I actually want to go in Portugal, so it's really interesting you're talking about it. I didn't know you were from there.
Yeah, Portugal. It depends. Portugal is one of those countries you just bring a backpack and kind of don't make any plans. Fly into the
Yeah.
north, fly into Porto, and then take a week or two or three to get to the Algarve. And once you're in the Algarve, then fly out of the Algarve.
Okay.
You don't have to plan. Just go to the Porto and you
Yeah.
see what I'm talking about. But don't cheat. Don't take the super train. Don't take a taxi.
No.
Start heading south, and then before you know it, you're gonna pass all these beach cities and towns, and then before you know it, you'll hit Lisbon. And then once you hit Lisbon, keep heading south, and then by the time you get to the Algarve, it looks like South Florida. Hang out for a bit, and then just jump on an airplane there, and then go back to Montreal. There's direct flights.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't think Montreal will be my place for life. No, no, that's not in my plans. So I don't know. I'll try to find a country where I can have. You know, Mexico was great for that. You could stay 6 months without working visa or anything, and then go out 3 days, and then come back and have another 6 months. So that's pretty practical if you wanna, if you kind of just want to do your thing.
A lot
So
of
yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
a lot of people, what they do is, if they lived in Mexico, what they do is they stay in Mexico like 5 months, almost six.
Yeah.
Then they fly to Miami, and then they stay in Miami like 1 week, and then they go back to Mexico again.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that did that trip from Mexico City to Miami, then Miami back to Mexico City.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. That was really, you know what I really like when I was in Playa, even though at first I wasn't so much in love because it's such a touristic city, but there's a lot of people questioning themselves there. You know, a lot of people don't know how to handle the world the way it is now, and lots of breakups, but there's also a lot of, you just people that are outside were doing everywhere, and that it was super, super interesting to go there for sure for that.
well, because people appreciate things a lot more. I noticed when I lived in Mexico for 2 years, right? And then I noticed the appreciation people had for each other was just incredible. I don't know. Did you hear my guest on the show? The last 2 weeks he's been on the show. He left Sydney, Australia, and now he's living in Acapulco.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, if you go to
That's great.
if you go to my channel and you go back, you'll find something there where a guy from Acapulco living in Acapulco now, and I have him on the show every week, and he's talking about how basically Sydney was a very soulless city, and it sold out, and it was hard to meet people. It was hard to do anything.
God.
Yeah, so
So it's getting like that everywhere. That's kind of sad, eh?
you want to know? You want to know a little secret?
Yeah.
It's all has to do with the American English Anglo Empire. It's the way we were programmed. And my friend Patrick, a friend of mine who lives in Brazil now, he lived in Australia, born and raised, and then he moved to Vancouver, and that's where I met him in Vancouver. And he told me that he's depressed. He's not happy in Vancouver. He thought moving to Vancouver would make his life better. And I said, no, Patrick, you know what your mistake was this whole time? It's because of the English American Anglo Empire. You need to denounce the whole English thing and move to. I told him to move to Mexico or Argentina, and then I helped him find a job, and I found him 2 job interviews in Brazil instead. He went to Brazil. He got a job in a mining sector in a company, working in an office for a mining company.
Yeah.
And now he's married and he has 3 kids in Brazil, and he says he doesn't even speak English anymore.
Wow.
He's
Yeah. Oh no, totally. I know. I totally know what you mean for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I've always said, like, you're scared. You know, people were scared of wars in many ways, and I was like, no, I don't know. When social media came about, and this like very subtle way of sending images and messages about this world that the Americans are kind of like trying to make us believe exists, is just going everywhere now, and it has a huge impact. So it's you're totally right that when somebody has more of a different culture up front, it's stronger to not be too much touched by that, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And you see, notice how in Mexico, how the Roman Catholicism is so strong?
The what? I'm sorry.
The Roman Catholicism.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
notice
Yeah.
how,
Yeah.
how you see Guadalupe everywhere?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's their patron saint, and that's it's really nice. And lots of colonial cities there to visit too. Um, just I don't know. My
Yeah.
my time in Mexico was probably one of the best times of my life, and I'm gonna take my kids there when they're a bit older.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah. It was really great.
yeah, but it's really good that you know that you came on and told us what happened and how Vancouver basically. I don't know. I think Vancouver. It's like a lot of people say, you get betrayed by the city. You go there,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's betrayed you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was speaking to. It's funny actually because the last day I was there, I went for dinner with one of my friend, and there's that thing where you're like, is that me? Am I like such a bad person? Am I uninteresting? You just really question yourself because
Mm-hmm.
it's such a hard thing to live, and then he was like, I'm sure it's not you. He's like, I swear to God. So he asked the server, and she was from outside town of Vancouver, and he was like, how do you feel in Vancouver? She's like, oh man, I'm leaving at the end of the week. She's like, I was getting depressed and depressed and depressed.
Yep.
It's just like everywhere. It is. You just don't know. You don't understand. I think one of the hard part for me was you can't talk about yourself. You can't just say, hey, you know what? I'm not having such a good day. You can't do that. It's I don't know what that is. They're scared of something, and yeah, I don't know. It's really hard. It's really hard for sure.
Mm-hmm. So lots of people in the comment section talking here. Someone's asking me to wave. So
The wave.
yeah, someone's asking me to wave. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, anyways, I want to know. So, yeah, okay, that's really good that you gotta. I have a little series on my channel that I've been doing like home based business, and
Yeah.
I've been selling online, and I'm actually been very successful with it, like really successful.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's
I'll have to talk to you.
yeah. I just don't know. I just have been doing so well, and I kind of did it as a hobby. And then
Yeah.
now it's I'm gonna have to start to file a T1, and I'm gonna put it through my corporate tax, and then I'm gonna have to funnel the money somewhere. So I'm gonna have to do that. I just thought it was gonna be like a little thing, and now it's like turning out to be like high 3, 4, 5, high 5 figures.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you. That's awesome. I'll talk to you. I'll ask you how you did.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
new
just
thing. I wasn't so happy, but it'll be great.
but you know what? Some advice is stay away from the whole English speaking world for a bit, and that's how you heal from the from whatever damage you pick up along the way here. Like, you know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
luckily, my wife's from the Philippines and she owns land there, so we're just gonna go back there and build her a nice house on her land. So yeah, I'll do a series about that and kind of follow my whatever we're doing there, and it's like I said, it's just more humble. People are more humble. People are patient with each other. People are more understanding, and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. A lot more respect as well, and you don't feel like I'm 35 now, and I'm like, I'm dead. I'm 35. That's how I felt over there. Some of my customers were like, yeah, I'm 30. Then when he looks at me, I'm like, oh my god, this is this is insane, man.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that's what it is. We have to take life by the horns, and but the thing is, you work so hard in Vancouver. You work so hard to build something, and everything you put in, it just things just got harder and harder, right? And but
Yeah.
but you saw your light. You saw what you needed to do, and you took what you needed to take, and move on, right? I
Hmm.
feel sorry for the people that can't move on.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I I don't think that if I had to take the time to really grow in it. I don't regret it, because when you face yourself so much in, you have to own your own emotion. You have to own your own everything that you are and accept yourself so much because often you're not accepted there, and it makes you challenge and see and discover pieces of yourself you probably wouldn't discover otherwise. And When I came back to Montreal, as much as I love Montreal and I've always said good thing about it, but I definitely have not. I'm so different now. There's so many pieces of me that have changed, and I don't think that if I had stayed in the state of mind that I was at the beginning in Vancouver, where I was like, oh, people in Montreal are so much friendlier and all that kind of thing. I had stayed to this and came back, I don't think I would be where I am right now. And, as much as Deanna was done, I had to go. But there's so much things for myself that I took from it, though. So I think that, you can make everything good with whatever that's happening. But indeed, there's a lot of people. I've known a girl, she was from New Zealand, and she was there for 6 years. She wanted to leave, but she was kind of stuck in not being able to put money aside for a plane ticket, which is like, it's kind of horrible, actually. You just want to go back, but you can't because you don't have any money to, you know what I mean? Even when I left, actually, I had money enough to pay my gas up until Montreal, and that was it. My account was like at zero, and so I was like, that was my thing. It's like,
I know there was a huge flow of people from Alberta that came in like 2001, 2002, 2003, just after, I think it was around the Olympics, just after the Olympics, and huge waves of young people came from Alberta, and a lot of them went back quick in a heartbeat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, I've heard that many times from Montreal, from everywhere else, for sure. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's a strange place. It's really strange. It's very sad because it's so pretty.
Okay. Anyways, well, I want to thank you for coming on. Is your name is pronounced Corinne, right?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure because you're French, it could be pronounced differently or something. But guys, that's Corinne from Montreal. We'll be following her once in a while on the show to find out what she's doing and how she's been recuperating from Vancouver and what she's been up to. Well, I want to thank you so much, and I want to thank you for giving us that motivational story.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. It was very fun.
Enjoy the rest of your night, and God bless you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. So, guys, that was Corinne from Montreal, and she had a really bad experience living in... it wasn't a bad experience. It was just one of those experiences that I went through and quite a few other people went through with the city of Vancouver. So people are all a little bit shaky about the Dow. I think the Dow's going to bounce back. Not fully back, but it's going to... everyone's asking me, and how did I do in the stocks? Well, I did okay. A lot of the stocks I'm in anyways are all my marijuana stocks have been going up like crazy, and I've been trimming some of that stock from the marijuana stock, and I've been dropping a lot into oil. I believe in my heart of hearts that oil is severely undervalued, guys. Severely undervalued, some of the oil stock. I'm just putting that out there. I'm not telling you what to buy. I'm not telling you what to invest in. I'm not telling you, I do not give financial advice because I can't even read. But what I can tell you is that I think oil is severely undervalued. So, there's somebody trolling in the comment section here. Someone calling me a snake in the comment section. You know you're doing well in life when people start calling you a snake. They don't know you. Canadian real estate starts to fall to nearly... Who is calling? Hello.
Hi, Mike. How you doing?
Good. It's Anthony from Detroit.
Yes, the appraiser.
The appraiser. How are things going on, and how are things down there in good old Michigan?
Splendid. I mean, I told you I've been shorting a long list of stocks, and it was a wonderful day today. Yeah, I've been heavily invested in the marijuana stock, and for some reason, all my marijuana stock is like going crazy today. Okay, well, it's not all bad news then. Yeah, no, I hedged a bit and I dropped a bit of it in oil because I know oil is severely undervalued, right? So that's just my opinion, but you know. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just that. Again, every commentator on TV is claiming it's the end of the market route. You don't think we're going into a bear market led by housing?
We've been going. Well, the bear market kicked off when interest rates started to slightly go up. Remember when interest rates went up slightly? The bear market started kicking off, and then the market's not holding its weight. Basically, the market's not holding under its own weight, and I think most of it has to do with housing, because I think housing is severely overvalued.
Yeah, I was comparing houses on the Toronto housing market crash on Facebook. That's a great group. Just what you get for your money in Michigan versus Mississauga. It's quite compelling.
Oh yeah, you get a mansion in Michigan, like a nice, beautiful something in one of the something in one of the good like Deer was it Dearborn, Michigan? You could buy this nice.
Dearborn's kind of crappy. I'm thinking like it's called Washington, Rochester, or yeah, I'd say Troy.
Yeah, Troy's not that bad. I've been to Troy.
Okay.
That's on the way to Toledo, right?
No.
Okay.
On the way to Toledo's downriver. I mean, downriver's not high on the list.
Yeah, because I've been to Pontiac, Michigan. I've been to Flint, Michigan. I've been to Detroit, Michigan. I've been to
all the dumps, man.
Yeah, Flag City or Flag City, Michigan, or what was that?
Oakland County is where there's like a more high net worth.
Yeah.
Washington. Yeah.
So what are you seeing with the housing there? Like, are you seeing any changes or?
Super slow. It's getting slow, and then, just in the. I can see a lot of appraisers are struggling now.
Okay. Construction. Where is it at there? Is construction going? Is it booming? Is it just slowed down?
I haven't followed that too much. I do know that there were some houses sitting on the market quite a bit this year. Kind of like the builders asking too much, but they're asking too much, but it's still nothing in comparison to what Canadians pay to live someplace.
Oh yeah, of course. When you look at places like Kentucky and Memphis and what people pay for a house in comparison to Vancouver, holy Christ. It's like you could sell a house in Memphis, you still won't have enough for a down payment in Vancouver.
And even in the GTA, I mean, just
yeah. So are you seeing any cross-border people migrating from Canada into Michigan because of the cost of living is so high in Ontario? Do you notice that at all?
Absolutely. I mean, I used to have my grandma living over there, and it's like her and her friends all sold their houses there because they were cottages, and they sold the cottages because they couldn't stand the utility rates, 10 years ago even. And then a ton of Canadians. I mean, I had a ton of Canadians in high school, just classmates, our class president. It was completely normal to be from Canada and be in my neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So I mean, there's always been a pull of people because it seems like we've been competing better in industries. Yeah. So we'd have, my parents got transferred by this automotive group, this stuff like that, and people just come over from Canada.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And then in recent years, I mean, offsetting that, it seems that the Canadian economy just decided to focus on real estate, and that's why this is the mother of all crashes. I mean, you could look at the Canadian stock market, Manulife Financial, all these financials, and this is what Lost Nook talked about, the contagion into the rest of the Canadian economy of this real estate. No one's talking about that really, I don't think.
It's Australia and Canada, and I think parts of the UK. Their economies are pegged on housing. Like they're so heavily dependent on housing to go up. Why would you throw something on a commodity like that could shift in price any time?
Yeah.
That's
just the corruption at its finest.
Well, and you know what's right behind housing in Canada for our economy? You know what's right behind it?
I have no clue.
Student loans.
Really? Like brokering out student loans?
Student loans became federal by the federal government, and they control the interest rates, and they're the ones that tell people that you got to go to school if you want to get a good job. And people get roped into these huge student loans in Canada. And I think 1 out of 15 people in Canada, or 1 out of 10 people, have a major student loan that they're going to probably carry for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. And just in the United States, I mean, we're going to get ripped. I just know it. The way Trump, did you see Trump today talking about the interest rate rises not being convenient, and the Fed is nuts.
Mm-hmm. Well, the interest rates in the U.S., remember, I don't know if you remember, I said it earlier in the show, was the United States needs to create some sort of a buffer or an aggregate against a coming crash. And raising interest rates is one way to hedge against a crash. And if you do it at the right time, it won't be that hard.
Oh, yeah, but it's obvious to me that it's not the right, like, the time already passed, it came and went.
Oh, yes, during the Obama administration, they should have, when Obama's second term kicked off, they should have started raising rates then.
Yeah, that's why we're seeing the global dominoes. You look at the news, India, Turkey spread into Italy, just people not paying back loans. I mean, it's a global phenomenon. And then we talked about Bolsonaro, the great victory in Brazil last week. It's wonderful for
yes.
markets temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
But right now the market will celebrate this victory like as some bullish victory, like all of Brazil is going to line up in line and follow this jerk to whatever he has planned, but it's looking more like civil war.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I know where you're going with this. It's looking like, I really don't want Brazil to go into a civil war. I mean, I really like Brazil a lot. I've been there many times. The country has the potential, it has the agriculture, it has the exports, it has the materials to basically do whatever it wants. And it's so sad that basically so much corruption in the upper levels of government is basically destroying people's lives.
Oh, totally. Basically witchcraft. Like, they get out the symbols and do little rituals. It's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And then, then this final topic, everyone celebrated Havana, but you really got to look at his history. Look at his history of the Jesuits and all this stuff with Skull and Bones. It's like we're just celebrating this witch doctor into his judge post. Mr. Patriot Act designer. He designed the Patriot Act, which takes away all of our rights to privacy.
Oh, the Patriot Act was the worst bill that was ever put into place. It basically, if Andrew Jackson knew of this, he would have rolled in his grave, I swear to God.
Right. So no one's opposing him on that. It's just about his sexual record. And that's where we're at in America. Well, it's been a few minutes. I'll let you get back to the regular. And I'll try to look for more specific details on construction for you next time.
Let us know what's happening in construction sector there in Michigan, Ohio, and as far as maybe roughly Lexington, if you could go that far and just kind of look around and see what's going on. If it's taking a cool off period in that area you're in.
A lot of jitters in the auto industry. I noticed that.
Okay, tell us what's going on in the auto industry in Detroit.
Oh, just the stocks are completely tanking, and then. I thought it was very desperate of Ford to introduce the Taurus one year and then stop making cars altogether the following. Like, what's your strategy? So things like that, and then so far no one is complaining about layoffs, but it's in part of this contagion we're seeing. It's like GM laid off a ton of people in Argentina. We're just in the American mindset, we're just being ingrained that it doesn't matter what happens in another country. It's gonna bite a lot of investors and portfolio holders in their 401ks pretty soon when it's all wiped out and they're completely oblivious to the fact that we need to trade with China. We need to trade with Canada and have things open. And then have you changed your mind at all on the tariffs?
Well, tariffs is it's just a way of taxing other countries, right? And we as citizens pay taxes every day, right? And I understand other countries sometimes need to pay taxes to us or to your country, or to bring back jobs or to create more inclusive jobs in America. I don't know. I just think that tariffs. I think Trump's going to tariff the world apart, but this these deals, these shady backdoor deals that were made 10, 15, 20 years ago should have been abolished because a lot of them sold out and a lot of these companies forgot what it meant to be an American, right? And I think what happened was they sold out to the almighty dollar, and I think I don't know.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, we have Ron Paul in the United States, who's kind of like the voice of the free market, and he is definitely got a different look at it, just the fact that it is a tax on the American people, because we pay more now, and our industry suffer, and that's what the CEO said. So I guess we'll watch it play out, but I'm not optimistic about tariffs helping us in any way, because I don't think higher taxation is going to be bullish for my housing market, and will encourage spending.
Can I tell you why I think that's happening?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just believe that Trump is trying to devalue the Chinese currency to a point where they're just going to collapse, because remember, China is one of the biggest consumers of energy, and if China has to pay for fuel or oil or petrol in a devaluing currency, it's going to make it harder for them to cease to exist.
Oh, I see. Lost Canuck wants to I guess argue with me. I've seen him support Trump in his channel. I follow his channel, but that's just the one thing I can't agree on is this love for Trump when his high taxation punishes Ontario in such a way. I like Canadians too much to support this joke. Laughing at us starting wars with Iran that we don't want. Committing blasphemy, basically, but there's a long list. And putting his son-in-law in power, but that's I guess I'll keep it between me and Canuck. But yeah, I'll let you take your channel back, and maybe Canuck can call in and tell us what's going on there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate your support here, Anthony. Keep your finger on the pulse also with the auto industry, and let us know what's going down there in Detroit, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, bro. Have a good one.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So that was our man Anthony down in downtown Detroit. We have somebody here in the we got somebody in the trolling people in the comments. Guys, go ahead and block them. For some reason, I know you're not going to believe this when I say this, but my YouTube is actually logged off. I swear to you guys, my YouTube is I'm actually transmitting this in a logged off account. So I'm not even logged into YouTube, and I'm still streaming. And it's showing 0 watching because I'm not logged in. That is bizarro. Wow. Yeah, I am logged in according to this. So, anyways. Guys, can you block Chalandra Maranga Jungle Juju Juja? Please, if you don't. 52 watching? Okay. Guys, let me know who's watching, how many people, because I don't know, because it's showing 0 watching right now, because I am not logged in. Yes, I am. And it's saying I'm not. Interesting. Interessante. People are watching from Toronto. People watching from everywhere. Okay, guys, let's move on. Anthony's going to keep us on the pulse there when what's happening with the auto sector. He could give us a good insight because he's right there. I hope they really do make Detroit great again. Steel wheels. Detroit was king when it came to employment, when it came to manufacturing, fabrication, design. Man, Motown. I used to go to Michigan all the time. Yeah, great state. Okay, so let's go to our cheat sheet here from Better Dwelling. Canadian real estate starts to fall to nearly a 2-year low. Here's why you should care. New housing construction is grinding to a halt across Canada. Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, CMHC, numbers show a sudden drop in new housing starts in September. The drop starts the newest level in nearly 2 years, and here's why it's important. The economy, here's why you should care about housing stats. Vancouver detached real estate prices drop. Sales decline over 40%. Greater Vancouver detached real estate market had a rough start to fall. Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver, REBGV, numbers show nearly every major market indicator deteriorate in September. Generally speaking, the detached market saw lower prices and plummeting sales and higher inventory. Vancouver detached real estate prices dropped $76,000, the price of a typical Let's move on. Toronto detached sales. Estate sales improve, but still second worst September in 17 years. So people get a little bit of a wind in the sails. They start jumping up and down. And a lot of people are happy. Guys, if you want to add me to Skype, it is Mike Martins, MikeMartins, 1980. Someone's asking what my Skype is. And, let me read one more here. This week's top stories: credit cycles and Canadian real estate prices and inventory is rising in Toronto and Vancouver. That is a perfect storm on its way. Understanding how credit cycle impacts Canadian real estate prices. This is a really good one, is all by Better Dwelling. Recovery, expansion, downturn, and repair. And it's use, rinse, repeat cycle. Canadian mortgage crisis sees worst August since 1995. Vancouver real estate just had the worst September in 27 years. 27 years. No one had cell phones 27 years ago. I don't think they did. 27 years. I don't think people had cell phones. I think they had pagers. Toronto real estate sales pop in 905, drop in the city, inventory rises in both. Let's move on. Oh, Seattle doesn't know where it's going in this housing market. Let's get Mario. Mario, where are you? Call in. I don't know where Mario is. Mario was in the comment section. Someone's asking me, Mike, come on, man. Come down next weekend and visit your my mother, to run a marathon with me. Oh, man, I can't run. Yeah. Someone says I just ran a 10K last week. Holy crap. Did it in 44 minutes. So bond market and yield curves. Yes, guys, the market isn't holding up against its weight. It can't hold its weight. Bear market's in the horizon, we're in a bear market right now. But how much of it is going to be a buying opportunity for a lot? Because I've been hedging my marijuana. Been snipping around my marijuana stocks and putting everything back into oil. I believe that oil is going to go back up. That's the Lost Canuck. Who the hell is this?
Hey, Mike. What's going on?
Not much. How are you?
Good, man.
Okay.
I'm watching your show.
I know you're watching. I see you in the comment section.
Yeah, so what's happening, bro?
Nada. I'm just here chilling out. Taking it easy, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was about to fall asleep, and then one of your callers mentioned my name. I was like, oh, wait a minute, somebody just mentioned me.
Yep. What's going on, buddy? Tell us. You got a few things on your mind. Let us know. What's happening? What's happening in the construction sector, buddy?
Well, the construction right now, like I told you last week, it's getting hit. They're not displaying it. They're not advertising it. The new houses, of course, there's nothing going up that's not sold. That's what a lot of these builders are doing. We're getting a lot of reports on the resales are dropping in prices, going down from between 150 to 200,000 from last year. So that's not reported. And as you know, the TREB, which is the all evils of things here in the real estate market, is actually suing Mongo Housing Info for, I think, if I'm not mistaken, $2 million or two. I can't even remember the number. So they're actually suing them because they're giving out information on privacy. So let's see if a real estate would call you in. Why are they allowed to advertise if they got over asking price or over bidding or 7 bids? And here we have them suing because now they're taking the downhill turn of the economy.
Interesting. It's very interesting that you actually bring that up in that way. Interesting. It's always a one-sided deal. I mean, always when it comes to the money.
That's right.
It's always a one-sided deal. It doesn't matter. It's money talks and bullcrap walks. And that's the scary part. Because how do you get to the money if you're never given that deal? You know what I'm trying to say, right, Mario?
That's right. You got people that are in politics, like we say, even here in Canada, never mind the States. Let's talk about Canada. We have hypocrites that are here. You got a guy that, I'm going off topic now, Mike, because what bothers me is you got a guy that's now hired by Trudeau as one of his foreign, I guess you say, investigator that used to be our Metro Toronto police chief. They used to go against marijuana, but now he owns the biggest share or the bigger owner of Aurora marijuana. So it's like I don't know how to read it anymore when you got TRED supposed to have a governor body of all real estates, and meanwhile everybody's breaking rules, everybody's doing everything possible. They're waiting for a complaint. So if you need a body of government to wait for a complaint against somebody that has a work ethic that's more than average, above average than a minimum age job, is then we don't have the governor body. All we have is report centers. So, we seen what, I think I put it on my YouTube, or I sent it on Facebook, Mike, where my wife found out that, by the way, my wife's listening in on this upstairs, so tell her I love her, but she's upstairs watching it. Mm-hmm. And she actually gave me one where I think it was CBC or CBS, CBC I think was doing an investigation on these real estates being on both sides of the story, of the seller and the buyer. Oh, and what happened is a lot of people lost a bid because a guy would go and bid and he was $30,000 more than what the person sold for, but because the real estate had the buyer and seller, he made more money.
That's disgusting. That was happening in Vancouver a few years back.
And then you look at, sorry, Mike, and then you look at Sydney, they have auctions on the street, which I think I like that. Even though the market's way overpriced, but at least it's in your face. At least you see all the action, what's going on. Now, is it legit? I don't know. I don't live there. I don't know. Maybe you could tell me, for the listeners, it is 100% legit. But over here,
I could tell you one thing before you move on. In Sydney, they've been having a lot of people there as posers that just stand there and make it look like there's a crowd.
Yeah, that's the other thing. That's why I asked you, because I don't know what the outside of the fraud comes in, where you see, like you just said, there's people standing by. They paid them $100 or $200 to stand there because the real estates are going to get an extra $10,000-$15,000 more in their pocket.
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. Yeah, that's definitely. So it's all. I don't know how to say it. It's all an illusion.
Yes, and I want to answer back to Anthony about, I support Trump and this and that. I don't support on everything he does. What I support is the way he brought the economy back to its speed. Now, maybe it's not happening in Detroit, but I'm not here to criticize the guy. God bless him, like anybody. But let's take it in a fact. If you are in a working and appraisal sector, and you're calling in, and you're telling me you don't know what's going on in the construction sector, I don't know. Would I hire him? Maybe not. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you one thing. Detroit has been a disaster for the last, I don't know how many, since 2008, and it was bad then. And now, in the last, I'd say, 8 years of the Obama administration, it never even got a percentage of improvement. Mm-hmm. They had cities that had water shut off and hydro shut off. And now you're getting a little bit of life. And, I feel sorry for the people of Detroit. I really do. When watching those movies and the people just going to donate blood and whatever, it's so sad to see, like you said. Mm-hmm. It was like a king back. I remember going to see a Formula One race in 1987. Mm-hmm. And all you saw was people with Ford and GM hats on, and that's where they worked. But, it was a rocking city.
Mm-hmm. I went to Michigan Speedway many times to see NASCAR.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun. That was actually really good, down in Michigan.
But I'm going to agree on you what Trump is doing to devaluate China's dollar. You're absolutely 100% correct.
I think he's pushing.
The same thing.
I honestly think he's pushing to devalue the yuan so that China's going to have to buy energy they have to pay more for their energy with a devalued currency, and then that basically is going to stop the U.S. from going to war with China. Basically, they don't have to go to war. It's going to be an economic war, right?
That's right. Which is the best thing for everybody at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So what else you got going on?
Not much. I'm actually working for a company. It's a little slow right now, but we got 2 other jobs that are just waiting to start. We see a lot of companies that actually, you could say, they're not hiring, especially the new homes. I've talked to a lot of guys that have been in new homes, and the people walking away from deposits of these new builds are getting larger. So I'm going to follow up on that probably in a couple of weeks. I'm getting some information. I know one builder, he's got a site. If anybody lives in Maple, Ontario, they can go to Keel and Major Mac, and they can look on the, it's on the east-south side, and you'll see that the foundation's in. It's been up for about 2 months, and there's no actual framing getting done because there's not one unit sold, and they started at $1.1 million for a three-level townhouse.
Wow. Okay. So maybe you could maybe do a video out there for your channel and give us a little bit of insight on how the construction's falling asleep everywhere.
Yeah, if I pass by there, Mike, it's a little bit out of the way, but if I do, I will. The other thing that's happening up here in Barrie, as you all know, the city hasn't collected the $13 million that's unfunded in the property tax collection. So they haven't even downplayed that. It's even more this year. So we're actually going to get an update. I think, if I'm not mistaken, by the 15th of November, they're getting an update on that.
Well,
so we're at $13 million last year, so we don't know what we're at this year.
Now.
And sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
And my wife and I were driving, and we noticed there's signs now in our subdivision that shows, of course, there's these mayor elections going on here in Barrie too.
Yeah.
But you'll see a lot of these signs up now. They say home equity, poor credit, okay. We've never seen these signs up. Now they're going up.
Yeah,
they're going up all in our neighborhood now.
It reminds me of those infomercials that you'd see at 3 a.m. where they go on and say, "Are you over 65? Do you own your home? Do you
want to feel a peace of mind? Do you want to give your grandchildren the extra money so they can play? Oh, please. Why don't you get me started?
Yeah, that's another day. Yo, get some story together. Maybe we could talk about have you on Mike in the Night if you're available. I'm not sure what you're doing Saturday night, but if you want to be on Mike in the Night, let me know. And we could do get something together. Get something a good conversation piece, man. We could maybe talk about
we will.
Yeah, we could talk about
we will, brother.
Yeah.
We will. Okay, have a good night, brother.
Yo, you take care. God bless you, eh?
Thank you, buddy.
Okay, bye. Ciao. So that was my man Mario down in Barrie, Ontario, who works in the construction sector and giving us a first-hand look on what's happening. What is happening in the construction market? Sorry, I'm reading the comments there. Someone saying, what time are you on Saturday? Usually 9 p.m., so it's midnight your time. So 9 p.m. Vancouver, LA County time. And that's like 12 in the morning Miami time, New York time. So it's pretty late. But I still have people. It's called Mike in the Night. Working on it. Yeah, working on it. It's in the comment section. Yeah. Working on it. And working on it is telling me that minimum wage is killing jobs in Edmonton. Working on it. You want to give me a call real quick on Skype? Are you home or where are you? If you're home, call me on Skype. I'd like to know what's going on with the minimum wage is killing jobs in Edmonton. As long as you don't swear. Don't swear. And keep it PG-13. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm loving how you're on right now. Anthony says, hi. Yes, I know. Someone keeps saying, I rent to Mike Martin's, $2,300 a month, no pets. No, I'm not interested. Hello?
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 Are you there? Oh, hi, Mike. It's Zach here from New Zealand.
Oh, how's it going?
Good. You always talk about New Zealand, and I'm always like, I want to call him up, but But yeah, you're never live when I'm around.
Well, it's like 2 p.m., 3 p.m. there. You should be around.
I work and do different things. It's 3:30 p.m. at the moment here, though.
Okay.
Yeah, so I thought, I'll give Mike a bit of a call up, because you always talk about the meth-contaminated houses in New Zealand and the situation here, and I thought I'd give you some kind of boots-on-the-ground information.
Please, let us know. Lay it out. Let's start off with...
Yeah, you go ahead, you tell me, and I'll commentate for you about what's happening. You tell me ask the question, go ahead.
Black mold, is it a theory, or is it a delusion, or is it a media hype, or is it really, really plaguing a lot of or homes in black mold? What's happening with black mold?
Okay, first I'll tell you, it is such a problem that we had a census earlier in the year, and they actually put a black mold question in the census to actually get a national kind of gauge of the problem. You know there's a problem when they're actually putting it in the census, okay? I don't know if a lot of your listeners and viewers know where New Zealand is, but we're below Australia. We're heading down towards Antarctica, you know. We're quite at the bottom of the earth, so it can get quite cold here in the winter. Mm-hmm. Saying that, it can be quite nice in the summer too. But because a lot of our houses, I'd say that the vast majority of them don't have insulation, Mike, and we've got such terrible, winters here, we do have a huge mold problem. And we have a lot of children, thousands of them, Mike, thousands, being hospitalised every single winter with respiratory illnesses. It is an absolute national disgrace.
Wow. Absolutely.
It's a national disgrace. I'm in Christchurch. I have been in houses where there are mold problems. In the house I'm in at the moment, around the bath, there's actually rot. So I've actually got really good landlords though, and they are coming in to address that. But I certainly know in Wellington, our capital city, I was actually looking at renting up there some years ago, and I was absolutely stunned by the amount of properties for rent where the walls were just covered in mold, and it was just shameless. It was people renting out these properties shamelessly, not even caring that there's mold on the ceiling or patches of mold on the walls. Mold in New Zealand is a very big problem. They have failed to insulate the properties in this country to the level where they need to be insulated to reflect our weather conditions.
Can I ask a question? Is it just like, do they have like an embargo or some sort of tariffs on insulation for that for New Zealand? Why aren't people buying insulation? It's not like they're buying gold plates, you know. It doesn't make sense.
Okay, well, in New Zealand, there's always been kind of a Southern man, hardcore kind of number 8 wire, give me a tin can and a rubber band and I'll cook you a Michelin-style dinner kind of mentality. But not having the right tools for the job is not something to be proud of. But beyond that, Mike, I think it's just the housing stock is so old. So any insulation that was in the houses has rotted out. And a lot of the houses are just old and they've got lots of gaps now. So maybe when they were brand new, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, maybe even 100 years ago, some of these houses, some of them were that old, Mike, maybe back then they were fit for purpose. When you had maybe, fireplaces, in the olden days, maybe they'd have fireplaces heating the whole house and whatnot. But a lot of these houses are old, there's lots of gaps, they're not fit for purpose. Any insulation they did have has just rotted out. So, yeah, they just haven't built new homes to decent standards.
Wow. Okay, so meth testing. What's going on with meth testing? I guess landlords are asking the government to pay for the meth testing, or give us a breakdown on what's happening. Explain meth testing to our listeners, because every time I bring it up, they have no idea what I'm talking about, even though I've read 13 articles on it. Maybe break it down again.
Okay, well, it's a huge scandal, Mike, and you were on the money, but we've moved on beyond it now. What's been happening is there's been social housing in New Zealand, okay? So we've got Housing New Zealand. They're the government provider for social housing, okay? Now, the last government, obviously, we've got Jacinda Ardern. We've got a new Labour government in now that they were elected last year.
Yep.
But the last government, the national government, for whatever reason, they wanted to package up these state houses and sell them off, or just bulldoze them down. So we've got a housing crisis, but the national government thought it would be a genius idea to get rid of the social housing. And one of the ways they did this was saying, all these social houses are meth contaminated. And who was setting the meth standards? Well, the people setting the meth standards were the meth testing companies. So you can see the conflict of interest there, can't you? If you've got a meth testing company setting the meth standards. Now, what's happened is, say, for example, someone has smoked meth in a Housing New Zealand house. Under those standards, that house would be deemed contaminated. Now, smoking some meth in a house is not going to contaminate it to the point where you can't live in it.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's more dangerous to live in a house where someone smoked cigarettes inside than smoked a bit of meth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So what's come out now is that there have been hundreds of people, probably thousands of people, which have been kicked out of Housing New Zealand houses
mm-hmm.
when they shouldn't have been. There have been landlords, private landlords, that have got these meth testing companies come in and said, sorry, your house is completely contaminated. You need to rip out the walls, rip up the carpet. That some private landlords have had to spend tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, bringing houses up to standard when there was no meth contamination problem whatsoever. It is so shocking, Mike, that the new Labour government, that we've actually got a science advisor. He has come in and said the last standards under the national government were an absolute rort, okay? And we are actually compensating hundreds of people that have been kicked out of Housing New Zealand houses. The most vulnerable people, Mike, in New Zealand have been kicked out of Housing New Zealand houses because the houses were supposedly contaminated.
Wow.
Their property, so they've had we're talking old ladies, old men who are in their 70s and 80s, they've had to throw out their couches, they've had to throw out their clothing, they've had to throw out their grandchildren's toys because they've supposedly been contaminated when it was completely untrue. Now, you do make a good point though, Mike, in the past. We call it P here in New Zealand, but we have a meth problem in New Zealand. A lot of people in New Zealand are on meth, okay? And there are houses which have obviously been used to cook meth. So, not only has there been fake contamination, there's been real contamination. And if you type into Google News, New Zealand, P hysteria or meth hysteria, all this will come up. It is an absolute shocker.
Wow. I will look into it further and read more stories about it. And this conversation with you has actually shone a lot of light on what's really happening with that. Is Phil Tyford doing a good job? I mean, I've been reading some articles that they are moving ahead with affordable housing. Is Phil Tyford doing a good job there for you guys?
I love it how you pronounce that. Phil Twyford.
Yeah.
He's the Minister for Building and Housing, I believe.
Yeah.
We've got Kiwi Build. So this is a reaction to, obviously, the housing crisis in New Zealand. We have the highest homelessness rate in the OECD. So the OECD is obviously the rich countries. It's a French think tank. We top the chart of the highest homelessness in the OECD. Okay?
Wow. Yeah.
The population, we have more homelessness than America, Canada, Australia, Japan,
Yes.
you name it, we've got the highest homelessness. Phil Twyford, he wants to do Kiwi Build, but, I mean, these Kiwi Build homes, Mike, they're starting at $600,000, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And need at least a 20% deposit as a first home buyer here. So it really is just a subsidy for the children of the upper middle class.
Wow.
It's not, and there will be, we've got less social housing in New Zealand than we did in 1991 when there wasn't so much of a housing crisis.
Mm-hmm.
It has been the past 2 decades, perhaps even the past 30 years, before I was even born, Mike, that this housing crisis has been brewing.
Yeah.
It is absolute negligence by the New Zealand government. We have some terrible statistics. We've got terrible child abuse.
Yeah.
We've got terrible domestic violence. We've got terrible drug use in New Zealand. We've got, I mean, you name it, it is not as glamorous as people think. I mean, and it is so refreshing to have someone like you over the airwaves or over the internet, over the fibre, telling the truth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And yeah, thanks for that. I mean, there's nothing to hide. I mean, this is what's happening, and I think this pattern is happening in every English-speaking country. And I think what's happening is because we are free markets, I think we're just selling out to the highest bidders, and that's how we're losing our shirts right now and working 2-3 jobs to try to keep up with the normal life.
I'm thinking of moving to Perth, Mike, because, I mean, Australia's got its own housing issues, as you well know. But what you get for your money in Australia or other Western countries there in Canada, you're going to get a hell of a lot more.
Yeah, bang for your buck.
Than you get in New Zealand.
The bang for your buck. You know when I show you guys houses in Mississippi and houses in Kentucky for $70,000?
It's a joke. What you get in New Zealand is an absolute joke.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people will be better. I mean, the wages in New Zealand, minimum wage here is $16.50 an hour, okay? Mm-hmm. And most people aren't getting more than minimum wage, okay? It's not like Australia. If people move over to Australia from New Zealand, they realise, oh my goodness, I'm earning 30% more. The petrol, and at the moment in New Zealand, I heard a lady call in from New Zealand a few weeks back. Petrol's gone up since then. You're looking at it $2.50 for a litre of petrol.
Oh.
Go over to Australia, you're looking at $1.60 a litre. So, I mean, you're getting 30% more. I mean, Australia has some of the biggest houses in the world. I mean, New Zealand is an absolute rort unless you're right up there in the top echelons. And even people earning over $100,000 in New Zealand are complaining they cannot afford to buy a house.
Yeah, of course. Remember that whole Silicon Valley thing I did where tech workers in Silicon Valley secretly live together, a huge a bunch of guys, because they can't afford to even pay rent on their own. And
that's what's happening about immigration as well. Per population, we've probably got, I would say, I haven't looked at this particular OECD figure, but I would suggest we've got one of the highest immigration rates in the world.
Wow.
So you've got a lot of, not trying to discriminate against anyone's culture or, anything like that. I mean, if someone wants to come to New Zealand and work hard and participate in our values, we'll embrace them. We're a very embracing people, us Kiwis. Mm-hmm. But we do have a lot of Malaysians and Indians and just poor workers from other countries coming into New Zealand, and they will live 4 to a house, 5 to a house. I mean, there are situations up in Auckland, our largest city, where there have been 10, 20, maybe even 30 people to a house.
Hold on. Do you remember that article I read for you guys a year and a half ago, 40 people to a house?
I do, Mike. I do remember that article. I don't know if that wouldn't be the norm, but, I mean, it's getting up there. And, I mean, when you pull back the covers, there's a lot of this going on, and there's a lot of exploitation of foreign workers in New Zealand as well. I would say every other week, but it's almost every other day we have a story about exploitation in New Zealand. Can you just hold there 1 second? I've got someone at the door.
Yeah.
Hold there. Oh, hello?
Yes?
Oh, is that for...
Flat 2? No.
No, it's not flat 2. Flat 2's down there.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Sorry, that was just a courier. He got the wrong flat.
Okay. So, next question I'm going to ask you. People being put up in hotels, how much of that is true?
Absolutely true. Absolutely shocking as well. The government is buying motels, Mike. Not only are they putting people in motels, they're buying the motels. And under the last government, there were people with $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 worth of debt because their stay in the hotel was being funded by the government, but it was being charged to the person taking up that emergency accommodation, who were more often than not receiving a benefit, or you guys probably know that as as social services.
Wow.
So not only were they, on the bones of their asses, they were actually incurring thousands of dollars worth of debt. I'm not up with Labour, our current government. Our new government has changed that. But, yeah, I think you can spend maybe so many weeks in emergency accommodation, then you start incurring the cost of that. And, yeah, we're only just, by the end of the year, the Labour government is removing letting fees. So whoop-de-doo for that one. But, yeah, accommodation is so scarce that, yes, the government is actually even buying motels to put people in.
Wow, I didn't know it was that extreme. I didn't know it was that
extreme. It is extreme, Mike. And, it is the media coverage does not do it justice to the actual situation.
Of course they're not going to tell you what's going on. That's not their job. Their job is to massage you, to tell you everything's okay. It's all rainbows and unicorns.
A lot of people are thinking of leaving New Zealand. I talk to a lot of people, and I think we're going to see a lot of traditional Kiwis, if you will, people which aren't new to the country, leaving the country next year. I think people have just had enough. They're sick of the low wages, they're sick of the high housing costs, they're sick of the appalling condition the houses are in. And it's just a case of speculators, and a lot of the speculators in New Zealand are just mum and dad investors. They just bidding each other, bidding the prices up, and then they realise, we've paid so much for these houses, we can't fix them up. We've got to pay rates and insurance and all these extras on top. The reason why the stock's not actually being improved is because people are simply paying too much money for the houses in New Zealand. We're talking about, the building code in New Zealand, I think houses have to be fit for maybe 40 or 50 years. I'm not quite sure if they've updated that or whatnot. But, a lot of the houses being rented out are, 40, 50, 60, as I say, 70, 80 years old. A lot of them need to be, in other countries that have been bowled down and replaced eons ago. We've also got a lot of zoning restrictions, Mike.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of NIMBYism, not in my backyard. You can't build here, you can't build there. A lot of ticket clipping from the councils. We need to test the soil. We're going to charge you $30,000 for the sake of it, and even then you might not be able to build after you've paid all these consenting fees. We've got kind of like a duopoly of building materials. A lot of the building materials here are overpriced. And what's even compounding the issue, Mike, is the New Zealand dollar, like a lot of currencies around the world, it's dropping like a stone. About a year ago it was 75 cents against the US.
Yeah, it reached a high of 79 one time.
Yeah, we have one of the most volatile, our currency doesn't collapse or anything, but we've got one of the most traded currencies in the world. And we've only got a population of just shy of 5 million, and we've got the 10th most traded currency in the world, okay? I've seen the New Zealand dollar almost on parity with the US dollar, and I've seen it as low when I was a kid, probably as low as about 50 cents. Right now it's about 64.5 cents. I mean, it's gone down more than 10% in less than a year. So that's going to make importing building materials harder. There's a lot of problems going on in New Zealand. We've even got a problem with synthetic cannabis at the moment.
Oh, yes,
I mean,
yes.
We've got people dying on the street synthetic cannabis. I mean, New Zealand, we've had people screaming out to legalise cannabis in this country, Mike, for decades. I mean, cannabis in New Zealand grows prolifically. It is a very easy crop to cultivate in New Zealand. We're going to have a thriving medical, hemp cannabis industry in this country, which will bring billions of dollars into New Zealand, especially with our clean, green New Zealand kind of image. We could be raking in the money, but the consecutive governments refuse to legalise it. But, I mean, synthetic cannabis, they decided to legalise that at one stage. Every single member of the New Zealand Parliament, bar one, voted to legalise synthetic cannabis. And then they said, oh, hold up, people are dying on the street, we better reverse that decision. And the person who voted against it was concerned about testing on animals.
Wow. So synthetic cannabis is death, is what it is. It's basically, I mean... the whole, that's a topic for Mike in the Night, but it's absolutely...
it just goes on in New Zealand, Mike. It just goes on and on and on.
Yeah, no, I want to have you on the show for those kind of topics too. I mean, it's phenomenal, like the synthetic cannabis, and didn't you guys have a bath salt epidemic there back like 5-6 years ago?
Maybe there were a couple of stories of people on bath salts, but it's not a huge thing in New Zealand.
Okay.
I'd say the main drug issues here are methamphetamine, so we call that P.
Yeah.
Synthetic cannabis has become a problem. There's a bit of alcoholism, and but a lot of people in New Zealand like using cannabis. Cannabis is a very popular herb or drug, if you want, in New Zealand, but they refuse to legalise it. I mean, it may be too late now, but I think a lot of this methamphetamine problems, a lot of the synthetic cannabis problems, they could have all been avoided had they just legalised cannabis. Decades ago when we've been screaming out, and they still refuse to do it. They say, oh, drugs are a health issue, not a criminal issue, yet they arrest people hand over fist for drugs, and they refuse to legalise cannabis. So they speak out of both sides of their mouth in this country. It is absolute political weakness over these particular issues, and it's and when you couple that with, people living on the streets. I mean, in my city here in Christchurch, in the South Island, I go to certain suburbs, and I have never seen so many people pushing trolleys. I go into town, and I see people outside shop fronts with cardboard signs. That is a new phenomenon in New Zealand. That is not normal.
Wow. Maybe you should go on the streets and do some video footage for us and upload it to YouTube, and I could play it here while we're talking. So
I'll have to do that for you one time. I don't really like going around filming the vulnerable.
No. But you're actually spreading the word, or maybe how do you say? Creating awareness is very important. I think knowing certain things is very important. I think us being in the know is so crucial. But the problem is, for the last, I think, 10 to 15 years, we've been out of the know for so much out of the know that we don't even know who to trust anymore.
Yeah, and it's just, it's possible to, I have high hopes for the Labour government, but, it's always that kind of neoliberalism kind of...
Mushy feelings, yeah, I know what you mean.
It's kind of, so I'll let you go, Mike.
No. Are you in a rush? Because I have a few articles here I want to go over with you.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. The last question I want to ask you is, I know the laws in passing and reading right now in New Zealand to ban foreign buyers. Is that what do you see happening with that?
Okay. Well, as I say, we are a country of just shy of 5 million people. So we've opened up our economy, we had the country opened up to any foreign buyer that wanted to come and buy here. So we could not absorb that kind of buying, okay? And I mean, if you're a big country like America, fine, have some foreign buyers. But a smaller country like New Zealand, we're talking an island nation here, we couldn't absorb that much foreign money coming in.
Oh.
So the foreign buyer ban, I think it actually might have just come in. It's certainly coming in this year if it hasn't already come in. But that is stopping probably a lot of money coming in from China. But saying that, if you're an Australian, you can still buy in New Zealand. We do have a special relationship with them.
Mm-hmm. And
also, if you are a Singaporean, you can buy houses in New Zealand. So it's yet to be seen whether or not people use Singapore, as a gateway to buy New Zealand property.
Yeah.
But I definitely think when you've got a housing crisis, you've got, thousands of people homeless, you obviously want to do everything you can to get the homes in the hands of New Zealanders or New Zealand proper than a speculator living in China who may or may not live in that property.
Okay, and wow.
Yeah, that's for a side note, Mike. It's come out that we have had one of the lowest sales rates. I believe it was last month or the month before.
Yeah, I covered that. And prices are starting to trickle down.
Well, they say staying stable, but I mean that's just another word for it. They might start coming down, but it just depends on if they can keep immigration coming in. I mean, if someone wants to pay $600,000 or $1 million for an old shitter, if you will,
mm-hmm.
And they can get 8 people in that property paying the rent, then they can maybe justify that price. But a lot of people are, they're going, it's a really hollowing out of the economy. That's what's going to happen in the long run. It's not going to benefit anybody because all the smart people, it's going to be a brain drain over to Australia or the UK or over there to Canada. The smart people are going to look around. I mean, I'm looking around thinking, hey, do I want to stay in this situation where I'm paying big bucks to live in somewhere which isn't that great, or do I want to go over to somewhere like Perth and earn more money, have a better climate, and have somewhere nicer to live?
Yeah. And that's what's happening with the Great New Zealand Brain Drain. Maybe I'll have you on a Saturday show, Mike in the Night, and I want to cover the Great New Zealand Brain Drain, and we could maybe get some stories of nurses and doctors and plastic surgeons and people of important crucial.
Oh my gosh, Mike! Oh my gosh, we've had strikes. The nurses are revolting. The teachers are, they've been striking. They're saying we're not working for this money. The government is giving them pay offers right now. They have been on the streets with placards. Mm-hmm. The teachers have been on the streets with placards. They're saying pay us more money. They have been striking in New Zealand. The police are demanding more money. A lot of the government core employees are saying, pay us more money. We cannot afford to live in these cities any longer.
Right. That's what happened in Sydney. Sydney's garbage collection, police officers, nurses can't afford to live in Sydney, so they have to commute 1 to 2 hours. So what they did was they built a condo just for people that work in the government sector because there's no way for them to commute every day. It's just out of control. And that's how bad it's gone.
Yeah. And this is what, sorry to interrupt you, Mike, but this is what Phil Twyford's Kiwi Build is. The idea of Kiwi Build is to get these police officers, these teachers, these nurses, who are actually earning, you'd think good money, actually into housing.
Yeah.
I mean, the hell with the rest of New Zealanders. I mean, if you're earning under $50,000, you ain't buying a house in New Zealand. It's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say one thing for our banks. I mean, we know the Australian banks, they've got some issues. A lot of our banks are owned by the Australian banks, like the ANZ, the ASB, Westpac, whatnot. But here in New Zealand, the banks have required speculators to pony up with a lot of money. It used to be if you wanted to buy a house, you had to front up with about 40% deposit if you were a speculator, or a first home buyer, you would have to pony up with 20%. Speculators, I think it's now down to 35%, and they're thinking about lowering that. But I mean, it wasn't, zero down payment. Like the banks did require a bit of a buffer there. So when these houses do come down in price, a lot of those deposits are going to be taken away from people.
Yes.
Make of that what you will. There's just so much going on, Mike.
Cranes, I want to ask you a crane question. If you go down to the bigger cities, like Welland, if you go to Auckland, if you go to some of the bigger cities, are you seeing a lot of cranes, a lot of projects going on?
Well, I'm in Christchurch, and we did have an earthquake here quite a few years back, and we're still rebuilding a lot from that.
Whoa.
Yes. In Auckland, there are cranes. They are trying to build up some of the skyscrapers. I can't speak to Wellington. I'd say yes and no. I know there is the crane count kind of indice, which they look at around the world. You would probably have to Google that. I haven't really been, when I've been away from Christchurch, I haven't really been counting the cranes as such. But there is definitely construction that is going on. It's just not keeping up with the immigration, and they're not lowering the immigration. So, when you're building less than 10,000 homes a year, and you're letting in, 70, 80,000, net immigrants a year, there's a problem.
Yeah. Okay, so I got here a couple of articles that were posted today in your country. Foul water and whistling drought, life inside New Zealand's emergency housing. So there's an article up here about foul water. What's going on? Do you know?
That could mean a lot of things. Keep going in the article.
It just basically says, wow. Okay, I'm not going to read into this one because this is someone's story and it looks really depressing.
It was a situation that was publicised in New Zealand a while ago where someone was paying, I think it was like $500, $600, $700 for a house in Auckland, and they were getting mold throughout the house, and it was if you type in swamp house, it'll come up, swamp house New Zealand, and none of the drainage pipes were connected to the street. All the drainage was going under the house and creating like a stagnant pool of, I suppose, maybe even feces and just water and just grossness under their house. And they had to go to Radio New Zealand to actually get the council involved, and because the government in New Zealand is scared when the media does cover things. Things start getting done if the media puts a microscope on certain issues.
Okay, I'm looking at the article. Swamp House, family no longer forced to vacate property, Radio New Zealand. Family paying $520 a week for a third world swamp house, Radio New Zealand. Wow. Let me get images of this. Holy crap!
I'm not at my computer, but I can just imagine what's coming up. So there you go. And that's cheap for Auckland. I mean, there are people living in just like derelict houses up there paying $700-800. I mean, there are people living in garages paying hundreds of dollars for the privilege of living in a garage.
Holy, look at the mold on the side of the house. Holy.
Yeah, none of the pipes are connected.
Holy.
And the council said, if you don't sort this out, we're going to fine you big bucks. But that family has been evicted. I mean, obviously the landlord just said, get out. A lot of people, because the housing is so scarce in New Zealand, people are afraid to raise issues with the landlord. Because the landlord will say, oh, well, don't really want to fix it, paying big rates, paid too much for the house, my margins are thin, poor me. We'll just evict the tenant and get someone in that won't complain.
This is horrible. I'm looking at the insulation here at the bottom of this house. It looks like, when you buy a brand new TV and you get that foam? Well, they're throwing that up in there. That's what it looks like, that kind of foam. It's not even good for insulation purposes. It actually is good for capturing and holding onto moisture.
Well, Mike, I mean, that's probably new installation they've put in. They're probably just putting that in now, you know. They would have had no installation before the media got involved. That's probably after the fixing up of the property.
Wow, look at the mold on the windows, man.
And there's no double glazing in New Zealand. I mean, everything's single glazed, you know. I mean, we're talking about our winters are quite cold. I mean, I'm in Christchurch. Sometimes it snows here. Okay, no double glazing. You know, that's a luxury.
I mean, is this issue like? I mean, do you guys have tariffs against this? Is it illegal to bring in double glazed windows in your country? Like, I'm not like the rest of the English speaking world or the Commonwealth or whatever you want to call it. At least is ahead when it comes to insulation, building on frost levels, proper foundation levels, proper mold checkups. Proper inspections, routine inspections. The rest of the English-speaking world, I think, is up to date when it comes to, health risks in housing and a lot of tenant scrutiny with, landlord scrutiny with landlords, making sure they're not, and a lot of landlords getting sued when they don't keep up their end of the bargain. Why is New Zealand so far behind when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to housing? Why?
If you build a new house, Mike, or a new apartment, you'll probably get the double glazing. You have to have the insulation. Okay, we've got some insulation standards coming in next year. All rental properties have to have insulation in the roof and under the floor where possible. As for the walls, well, that's not covered, but the new standards are coming in next year, 2019. I'm not quite sure what month, but all rental properties will be required to be insulated in the ceiling and underfloor where practical. And there are standards of what the insulation has to be like. There are standards of how close the insulation can be to bathroom fans and whatnot. And also, property managers are going to have to declare to tenants the state of the insulation in the property. And if they rent out a property which is not insulated, again, only in the ceiling and underfloor is required. If they rent out a property and it turns out that there is no insulation in that property, the tenant can then take them to what is called here in New Zealand the tenancy tribunal, and the tenant can be awarded and probably will be awarded $4,000.
Wow.
So we do have that standard coming in. Things are changing. It's just like I said, Mike, they haven't built enough houses. So there's no new, it's like, if you're rich and you've brought, land is so expensive in New Zealand, Mike, that if you buy a piece of land, you're not going to build a small 2-bedroom house on it. If you buy a piece of land in New Zealand, you're going to build a McMansion on it.
Right.
And the only people that can afford to build a McMansion are people with lots of money. So all the rental stock in New Zealand is just old houses which are decades old and are well past their use-by date, which are full of mould and whatnot. And because a lot of properties in New Zealand are owned by mum and dad investors who keep outbidding each other, no work's been done on them. We don't have a situation in New Zealand where we have, I don't like things being owned by big corporations, but in other countries, you have corporations which come in and they will run, rental stock. We don't have that. All you have in New Zealand is these old, scummy houses that people are forced to rent for top dollar, which are well past their use-by date. The national government, their argument for bulldozing a lot of these old state houses, and bearing in mind, I told you we've got less state houses in 2018 than we did in 1991, and there's a housing crisis in 2018. But their excuse for bulldozing all these social houses was, they're not fit for purpose, we'll bulldoze them and build something new. Unfortunately, the something new hasn't come along.
No. And then it's been, that's when you, at the beginning of the conversation, we talked about that.
Yeah.
Now...
Yeah, so does that kind of enlighten you as to the situation we've got? It's just, and they don't want to put the brakes on immigration because employers in New Zealand don't want to pay a fair, a fair wage here.
Mm-hmm.
They would rather import chefs from. They'd rather have people working in fast food who are from India,
Mm-hmm.
or Malaysia,
Mm-hmm.
than pay some decent wage in New Zealand. They would rather people pick kiwi fruit, and picking kiwi fruit, Mike, is a hard job. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
they'd rather pay. They'd rather get immigrants coming in to pick the kiwi fruit than upping, what they want to pay people. So employers, they're all for the immigration. Business is crying out for, we can't get the workers. Let us import workers. We need people in Queenstown to work the ski fields and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, let's import workers. And the national government, the previous government, have been like, okay, we believe you. This new government, they're kind of a little bit more skeptical. They're like, well, have you tried upping what you pay people? Oh, no, we couldn't possibly do that.
Oh, God forbid somebody make a bit more money. Oh, my God.
It was so hilarious. Like, if you type, again, Radio New Zealand is very good for information. You should put it on your bookmarks.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to put... There's a gentleman on there, older guy, that talks a lot of sense on there, too. I saw him. I forgot what his name was.
John Campbell?
Probably, yeah. And he's pretty...
He's moved on to another network, so, yeah.
Yeah. But he seems pretty upbeat on what's going on, too, so... but, yeah.
Yeah, I know of the kiwi fruit industry. Radio New Zealand did a segment on that, a couple of segments on that, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And they went to because they were saying, we don't have enough people to harvest our kiwi fruit. So John Campbell goes up there and he's like, okay, what's going on? I mean, how much are you paying these kiwi fruit workers? Oh, we're paying them minimum wage, $16.50. Oh, have you thought about upping what you pay people? Maybe you get more people applying for the jobs. Oh no, if we up what we pay people, we're just going to take workers from someone else's business and they'll be short.
Oh, really?
It was just like, jaw drop. Are you serious?
Oh, please! It's called competition.
Exactly. The whole industry needs to up what they're paying people, and and a lot of people would rather just say, hey, you know what? I'll just go on unemployment, live with 4 or 5 other people. A lot of people just have given up completely in New Zealand. I'm not saying everybody. I mean, there is some light at the end of the tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of these drug problems are just people saying life is so difficult, they can't see any way forward.
Mm-hmm.
So they just turn to a lot of intoxicants to deal with the reality, which is the misery of their lives. And we have had, at the last elections, we did have a party called TOP, the Opportunity Party.
Yes.
And they had the real solutions, but the media really crowded them out.
Of course.
And it was so unfortunate. And it was so unfortunate they didn't quite make it in, but they are going to try running again.
Mm-hmm. And
in New Zealand we have coalition government, so Labour's in with New Zealand First, and they've got the Green Party as their support partners. So if a little party does get in, they can actually have quite a big say.
Well, we have to promote the other party that gets blacklisted that's actually there to help the people.
Yeah, and that was the Opportunities Party. And, I mean, to be fair, they did leave their run a little bit late, but it was actually funded by a multi-millionaire philanthropist, economist,
mm-hmm.
and he was for, universal basic income. He was for, not like wholesale giving money away, but he had a lot of very, very good ideas that would work with the New Zealand ethos, and I could see very clearly where he was coming from and how having his voice in Parliament, because
mm-hmm.
we call it the House of Representatives, because we need a variety of people to represent what's happening in the country. And he said, in New Zealand, the tax system is so geared towards housing because you pay no capital gains tax in New Zealand. You pay no stamp duty in New Zealand.
Wow.
It's a free-for-all. People are like, well, we could leave our money in the bank where we're getting, no interest whatsoever, which is why the New Zealand dollar's going down,
mm-hmm.
because, the Reserve Bank has our official cash rate, I think, 1.5% or something,
mm-hmm.
Lower than the Americans' official cash rate, which is a first in New Zealand history.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why our dollar's plunging, is because, and it's all because, we want to prop up the house. Oh, we can't have houses go down in price. We can't have interest rates go up, because if interest rates go up, people won't take out mortgages, So, yeah, it's very shocking, and people have been using housing in New Zealand as a vehicle to get wealthy. And then we're talking about maybe 15, 20 years ago, someone in Auckland buying $250,000 house, $300,000 house. Now they're a millionaire by just sitting on the ass.
And remember that articles I've been reading, or not even articles, that I've been preaching that people are using their homes as ATM machines and living off the coattails of their homes?
Absolutely. Happens all the time. It's just, and people love it. And when they get into the voting booths and there's like, do I vote against my interest or do I vote for my interest? I mean, there are a lot of people in New Zealand that talk out both sides of their mouth. On one hand, it's like, is it a housing crisis in New Zealand? These poor, vulnerable people. But on the other side, it's like, I don't want my house price to go down. They need to realise we are an island nation. If we can all do well, we can all get along. I mean, we can have a great our healthcare system is, for all intents and purposes,
I know.
It's free. It's a good healthcare system, okay? Compared to other countries, it's a good healthcare system. I mean, our education system used to be all right, but everything is starting to fall apart because of housing, because of lack of opportunities, because the cost of living is just not keeping up with the wages. And if things keep going the way they're going, it's going to cause even more social rifts in society. Mm-hmm. And things are going to get worse and worse and worse. So, it's all very well to say, I've got my $1 million house, but you soon might be paying big bucks for your health care. Your children might be living in cars, Mm-hmm. So people are so greedy, they've been blinded by the long-term effects of how the country is going. People can only see the ATM which is in front of them, and it's quite revolting.
It's disgusting, if you ask me. And they're taking care of their own interests, and nobody is basically looking at the next generation. And that's what keeps me up in a cold sweat at night, is the people not focusing on their next generation, and that's what's scary.
Anyway, Mike, I'll let you go because I've got a really sore throat. I need to have a cup of tea. I've just been screaming down the phone, so I'm sorry to your listeners.
It's okay. It's okay.
It just got me so wild up with what's happening in this country, Mike, and I just wanted to clarify a few things. But I could go on and on and on, as you could imagine.
Well, we'll definitely have you on again, for sure. And if you have any topics for Mike in the Night, let me know. If you want to maybe bring up the synthetic marijuana, or if you want to bring up, all kinds of stuff that's going on down there. Because whatever happens in your neck of the woods ends up happening in our neck of the woods, and what happens in our neck of the woods ends up happening in your neck of the woods. And that's the pattern that I've been seeing in all English-speaking countries that are free markets.
Awesome, Mike. Well, you have a good rest of your day, night, whatever the time is there.
Oh, it's night, yes.
Okay.
Bye. Bye, thank you. So that was... somebody's commenting here. Sorry, people leaving me a message. That was awesome. That was huge. Someone's asking me, Mike Martins, what is your general impression of millennials in Vancouver and the surrounding cities? There's millennials still living in Vancouver? That's my question, my answer to that. I guess, I don't know. I don't know much, I'm kind of out of touch with that whole generation. I listen to different music. I drive a minivan. I'm more of a family guy. I've been out of touch with the whole Generation X and the whole millennial generation lately. I do see a lot of high school kids that come by the store and talk to me a bit. Okay, working on it. You want to call me or because hold on, maybe Steve should call first because it's really late there. Steve, well, you give me a call right now, please. Yeah, I think Steve should call me right now because it's 9:10. It's 11 p.m. right now in Toronto. So, and then I'll have maybe working on it after, because she wants to tell us something that's happening with minimum wage in Alberta that is killing everybody. So it's good to know what's happening there in Alberta. Just getting messages here. Steve, I know you like to call me, so Steve, you want to call me? Hurry up. So Steve's hitting the bathroom right now. So let's get back to some headlines here, people. Reading headlines. Okay, we did that. Seattle housing market that can't make up its mind. And it's not looking good in Seattle. It's gone down 75,000 in the last quarter. And now Seattle thinks they have a way to solve this problem by how backyard cottages could open up Seattle's housing market. Backyard cottages. So they're massaging people into believing that, oh, you can live in someone's backyard. Hey, you can even live in a tent. You can live in a tent. It's good for you. I should have asked the caller from New Zealand about people living in tents in backyards. I want to know if that was true. Finding a home in California is hard. Rent control will make it harder. So there's kind of a few laws being passed in the last couple of weeks there in California. California is in a mass exodus right now. Everybody's leaving east. I've been saying this to everybody. Someone's saying the stock market is crashing. Markets are crashing this week. I've been checking. I checked my portfolio all day today like a shark. And if anything, my marijuana stock's been spiking like crazy. Oil's dropping, which is good, because I really believe that oil's undervalued. That's just how I feel. I could be 1,000,000% wrong. Workers face housing crisis in Reno, Nevada. Biggest, littlest city in the world. I've been to Reno. I love Reno, Nevada. It's a little city in the middle of a dust bowl. It's so cute. In recent years, the city of Reno, Nevada has fallen victim to the housing crisis faced by many other cities. Rent costs have increased to the point of being unobtainable for much of the working class, and available homes are quickly occupied, making it extremely difficult to find housing for those who are currently on the market. Rents have been going up rapidly in many cities. Reno ended 2017 with the fourth highest rent increase in the country. It is now common to hear instances of working class people forced out of their homes due to seemingly overnight exponential rent increases and that are impossible to adjust to, especially under short notice. Sudden, dramatic rent increases are the act of violence against working people. This is good. This is really good. Sudden, dramatic rent increases are an act of violence against working people. Could someone chisel that into a stone? Because that's that right there. That should be in stone. It should be built a monument around it, and people will give rose petals to it every morning when they walk by, because that right there is what is the problem. Sudden, dramatic rent increases are an act of violence against working people. Landlords benefit from forcing out low-income residents, thus clearing space for more profitable, high-paying tenants. This process is happening on steroids in downtown Reno, where many of the city's impoverished people have taken permanent residence in motels. Jacobs Entertainment, a gaming company based in Colorado, has recently begun buying property in Reno with the intent to demolish motels and replace them with more casinos and a proposed fountain district, turning the area into a playground for the rich. I don't know if you guys remember South Park when they had Sopa Sopa, when they took the poor areas out and they took Kenny's house out and to put this Sopa Sopa in the downtown and creating a playground for the rich. It turned out real bad, and South Park's pretty good when it comes to predicting things. When asked by Reno Gazette's Journal about the scores of people who will be displaced by these projects, Jess Jacobs, founder of Jacobs Entertainment, referred to the motels as heroin hotels, effectively criminalizing the people who rely on them for shelter. Wow. And last and the last low-income housing is ripped away from working people, where there are two questions. How did this happen, and how will it be stopped? In recent years, Tesla and Amazon have increased operations in Reno area, bringing large numbers of highly paid workers from other states. This created an increase in demand for housing, and landowners began to increase prices to maximize profits. Because of capitalist unsustainable greed, working class families are violently uprooted from their homes to clear space for people with thicker wallets. The blame does not fall on out-of-state workers, but the local landlords and property managers. This tragedy is a natural occurrence under the capitalist system, in which housing is a commodity instead of a human right. That only way guarantee workers access to housing for all is to replace the oppressive, exploitive capital system with socialism. So it's happening in Reno, it's happening in Vegas, it's happening everywhere. Housing is becoming a major crisis in every English-speaking country. What's happening in New Zealand is happening right now, for example, in Denver, and what's happening in Denver is happening in Vancouver, and what's happening in Vancouver is happening in London, and what's happening in London is happening in Australia. What is happening? People are getting bought out. Affordability is getting thrown out the window. The middle class is getting extinct. The middle class is disappearing. I am shocked that this is happening in Reno, the biggest littlest city in the world. I was at what hotel? The nice green hotel with the green neon lights. I forgot which one that was. Can't remember right now off the top of my mind. The Hilton? Was it the Hilton? I stayed there in Reno, and it was. I think Reno was just incredible. Little city. I thought that it was cute, but now it's taking the charm away from cities. It's taking people's lives away, and I'm really choked to see that people are like it really choked. And I like how they put this here. Sudden dramatic rent increases are an act of violence against working people. We got to get that chiseled into stone somewhere, so that if we get wiped out from a natural disaster or nuclear war or something, the next generation that comes forward could read that and put that into law. Anyways. Peter is saying they've ruined Australia. Take me back to the 80s when I finished school. Oh yeah, I know. Back in the 80s, it was phenomenal. We got to get more 80s talk going on my channel, so people in the generations to come could understand how it was to live in the 80s. How basically you had everything if you worked. All you had to do was work. You know, now you work 3 jobs, and you can't even pay. You can't even cover your rent. So yeah, and Lord Humongous is telling me the same thing. Yeah, 80s were great growing up in. Oh, 80s was phenomenal. The 80s, the glamour rock, the bands, the music, the TV shows, the acting. If you type in 80s, hold on, I don't know what that is. 80s here. Look at all the greatness from the 1980s. Look at that. Wham, Madonna, Michael Jackson was black. It was so good. It was so good back in the 80s. And the leotards and Corey Haim, Corey Feldman. Oh my God. Sweet 16, the movie with Molly Ringwald, Ghostbusters. Man, it was just the time. The 80s was the time. You know what I'm saying? Wow, it'd be pretty cool living in California in the 80s. You know, down in Pasadena or something back in the early 80s. When that movie, what's that movie with Corey Haim and Corey Feldman? The Outside. No, it was The Outsiders? No, the one where the vampires. Steve. How you doing, buddy? You okay?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Busy.
Good. So what's going on with before I kick off the conversation with you? Do you remember the movie The Lost Boys?
Sorry, the what?
The movie The Lost Boys from the 80s.
No, I don't.
With Corey Haim and Corey Feldman, and their people disappearing in California, and they're turning into vampires.
Oh, what you're talking about now. Sorry, the name of the movie just escaped me. I know what you're saying. Yeah. All right.
I just brought it up because we're reminiscing on how things were so good in the 80s, and the style and the glamour rock. What was your favorite glamour rock band, Steve?
I was not into any glamour rock whatsoever. Buddy.
Well, I like Duran Duran.
Okay. All right.
Okay, buddy. So what do you got cooking? What's going on, buddy?
Well, we've seen some pretty interesting declines over the past 4 days with respect to stock markets around the world. Today was a rough day for a lot of people. A lot of people lost a lot of money from, I guess, the Toronto Stock Exchange as well as in the U.S. So that was quite interesting to see people freak out. I think they were saying something to the effect of total, if you combined everything, was down about 1,000 points.
But Steve, I'm going to be really frank with you. I've been checking my portfolio all day. I'm only down like 1.1%.
Yeah, I can see that, and I'm down just about similar, just over 1.5%. But you talk about people that I'm not really into anything too risky, so that's good. But a lot of people take big risks for big reward, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what's happening in the housing sector? Like, I guess how should we put it? Eavesdropping conversations, I guess. Have you been hearing anything?
Yeah, a lot of agents are trying to push for listings. You're going to see a lot of properties start to come onto the market right after the rate hike. They're preparing now. I've spoken to 3 different agents, and everyone knows it's coming, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. That is, we'll probably see at least 2, if not 3, rate hikes, and then things will kind of sort of calm down for a bit. But then again, who knows? They could continue to escalate. That said, a lot of agents are preparing to put stuff on the market. We're going to see a lot of supply hit the market very, very, very soon. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about boxes in the sky with respect to the GTA, and that's all I really try to comment on, is because that's all I really hear or know. That said, a lot of the higher end market is coming on the market in droves, mm-hmm. and even some of the properties that are $1 million, $1.2 million to $1.5 million are going to start hitting the market pretty aggressively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. Okay. Well, it's always it's always the higher end luxury places that get hit the first. First, they get hit pretty hard, and then after the detached market starts to go, and then people start jumping off the condo market and the townhouse market because it looks like they could afford to get back into the detached market, and I think that's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. The Globe and Mail, actually, remember when we were speaking and we said once the regular news media outlets started talking about certain things, it was already too late. The Globe and Mail has been a long since advocator for organized real estate, in my opinion. Many of their articles are bought and paid for by organized real estate. Mm-hmm. But approximately 17 hours ago, the Globe and Mail put out an article. I haven't read it because I refuse to pay for articles online.
Yeah.
And they definitely want you to pay for it. Now, anybody in the comment section that can remotely tell me how to get around that, I would be pretty happy. But in any event, the Globe and Mail 17 hours ago put out an article, and it's titled "Expected Mortgage Rate Hikes May Crimp Housing Market." And then Move Smartly 15 hours ago put out how debt is cooling Toronto housing markets. So all this stuff is coming to terms with what we've been talking about for quite some time. But yeah, I mean, with respect to the Toronto Real Estate Board, they're trying to do everything in their power, including, I'm not sure if we talked about this, Mike, or not, but the Toronto Real Estate Board is actually suing Mongo House.
What? Say that again. Mongol House?
Yes.
What's Mongol House?
Oh, Mike, you need to Google Mongo House right now.
Okay, doing it right now.
Mongo House is going to change your life even better, and it should be one of your favorites, because as long as you go on there and you fill out the form and you actually pretend to be, or you don't even have to pretend. I went on there just as a dummy consumer, and I just wanted the information. They will give you past sales numbers. They will give you canceled listings, reactivated listings.
Oh, so it's one of those active real estate websites that actually keeps stuff up to date and gives you the truth.
They led the way by example while Trev was getting the shit kicked out of them in court.
Mm-hmm.
They were just giving all the information out, so on and so forth. It was a fantastic thing.
Okay, I'm looking it up right now. It keeps giving me Mango House.
Mongo. Mongo House.
Here we go.
Mongo, not Bongo.
It's open. Mongo House unavailable? The website has been down until further notice. Please, we apologize for the inconvenience.
Yeah, so I didn't know when it went down, but they said that it might have gone down. But I think what's happened here is Trev's gone ahead and done some sort of a gag order or whatnot. But Mongo House, basically, they gave all the information out to the public. It was absolutely fantastic. So Trev's flexing their wallet once again from the proceeds that they get from their members, and they've hired their big lawyers to go after Mongo House, and I guess now Mongo House is down.
Moby is in the comments saying that Trev sued them.
Yeah, that's what I just said. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. But I mean, but what about freedom of information? Is that only in America, or I guess Canada? It's kind of bland, or it's kind of semi-transparent, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm very interested to read this statement of claim. And a statement of claim, once it's basically brought before the courts and filed, is considered public record.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course, because this gives the general public some sort of an inside knowledge, or a knowledge that they should have armed with when they go and buy property or inquire for properties. Like, I mean, it's like, here, Mr. Carpenter, go ahead and build me a house, but you can't use nails. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's going to be some interesting, chains of events that are going to happen. I know organized real estate within Toronto has gone on and said, if you're waiting for a crash, keep on waiting, because it's not going to happen. There's not going to be a huge downturn, so on and so forth. And what kills me is there's so much information available. It's not even funny to begin with, to basically kill what they're saying and kibosh it. But furthermore, I don't know how anybody in their right mind can continue to say, whether they're organized real estate or not, that house prices will continue to rise and have the ability to continue to rise based on things like, the tech sector, immigration, so on and so forth. At the end of the day, when people need a mortgage, it costs X amount of dollars to go ahead and, get into a property first and foremost. Then you have to factor in the cost of borrowing and leveraging yourself. And like you said before, your total debt service ratio. As the price of poker goes up for the cost of borrowing, house prices must come down. It's inevitable. We can't start rewriting history as we know it, and we can't go ahead and play dumb or be in denial, because anything less is actually defying all logic, in my opinion.
Well, remember, I keep saying this, there's a lot of unusual underlying things. There's too much abnormalities in the markets that we never dealt with 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. There's a lot of looseness. There's a lot of lax checking or fact checking. There's a lot of punishment is not being passed down for those that break the law. So there's a lot of like loose, weird underlying crap that's happening that didn't happen 20, 30, 40 years ago. Because in a normal housing market, this market should have crashed twice already by now.
Yeah, absolutely. Or had a very, very stern correction.
Yes, at least twice by now, because you're going to have the supply and demand issue that creeps up, and yes, pricing will get more competitive, but then it starts to cool down once rates start going up, and it's a cycle rinse repeat. But because we had record low interest rates for historically low for such a long time, and all the quantitative easing and all the pension money going missing and teachers not getting paid as well, it starts taking a toll on the day-to-day citizen that's just trying to make their way.
Yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. That's just the way that things are going right now. And it's going to end in tears for a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm feeling it, bud. I could feel it. Are you feeling it in the air there in the GTA?
Yeah, a lot of people are worried. A lot of people are starting not to spend like they once were. And that's for two reasons. One, people flat out will just say, I'm sorry, I just don't have the money. Or two, no, I don't really want to spend the money right now. I'm not really sure of my employment, or I'm not sure how the economy is going, or what's going to happen. A lot of people are faced with the harsh reality of what's unfolding here. And I hate to be negative. I wish I could say that, the economy is going to do fine and housing is going to be stable. We've seen the bottom, so on and so forth. But you can't say that. And simply due to the fact that, again, it defies all logic with respect to interest rates going up. And wages are too disproportionate to the cost of housing and the cost of living. It's too out of whack. It must fail. It has to fail.
Well, yeah, like I said, there's too much. But Steve, you know what would keep you up at night is if you actually knew a lot of the underlying things that we don't know. Imagine that stuff came to surface, how people would feel after. Because
sorry, Mike, you cut out there. What did you say?
The reason why this is happening, because there's a lot of things that we don't know that's happening. We don't know. We just don't know. And that's why Treb or whoever those guys are trying to hide this as much as possible, because there's something really happening that's out of our knowledge, out of our grasp, out of our information that we have, or information that we've been gathering. I think that there's something bigger going on. And I think it's going to come up soon. I think there's something... And it could be a whole whack of things, but I think there's something that they're just trying so hard to keep from us, because it would just... I think it's going to destroy consumer spending. It's going to destroy people's confidence in buying. I think I think what's happening, people are... you're going to start seeing the retail sector start to crash. You're going to start to see the job sector start to crash. I think there's something really big, Stephen. We don't know what it is. It's not that we're not informed. It's that we just don't know, and a lot of people don't. And I think that's why Trebe is trying to hold things back. I think that's why maybe we're not meant to know. You know what I'm saying, Steve?
Well, I think we're not being apprised of the situation because mass panic would set in first and foremost. And I think you're onto something in terms of there is something bigger and better yet to come. And the only way out of this whole situation is if the government starts printing money. And before the government starts printing money, they're going to raise rates. And they're going to raise rates to a certain level, and they're going to have to stop and then retract and give money back by way of overnight lending rate to kind of sort of stimulate the economy a bit, so on and so forth. But make no mistake, mass amounts of ethereal gains and paper wealth will need to evaporate in order to hit a reset button properly. And I think that's what's happening right now. If you ask any investor in the GTA with respect to speculation, they will not speculate in this market anymore.
Well, of course. Of course. I mean, I would rather
You're
hold on.
playing Russian roulette.
Yeah, I would rather hold on to like $10, $20 million in a 0.5% accounts than put anything into real estate right now.
Yeah, I have friends right now that they will single-handedly. They are private money guys, and they are lending money out at 10 to 12%. Okay, as long as income is verified, and they become basically the first charge mortgage holder.
Wow.
So in other words, the mortgage will be paid out. They will become first charge mortgage, like the first lien holder, in order to get paid on it. And they actually will lien the house 3 times the value, so the person can't go out and put their house on, up for collateral to start a business, for a line of credit, for a house, another property, whatever it may be. So they're leaning it for 2 to 3 times its value to secure their stake.
Wow, that's huge. That's enormous, actually. That's a lot of VIG, if you know what I mean. That's a lot.
People are doing it.
That's a lot of juice, and 9 points. So on $1 million, you're paying $90,000 a year in VIG or interest or juice.
Yeah, and I wasn't going to touch it with a 10-foot pole until they came to me. And I'm going to do it, and I'm going to go in. I'm not going to stick much in. I might stick a couple $100,000 in, and a couple $100,000 at 10 or 12% is pretty darn good.
Yeah, but what's the risk factor?
Well, this is the whole thing. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't something crazy like 80-90% total loan to value. They are only going in at 58% total loan to value.
Okay, so they get first position on the mortgage.
They get first position, first and foremost, and they own the majority of the house as it sits right now. And basically, we're going to have to see house prices come down the equivalent of over 40%. Okay, not 40% from the peak, 40% right now. Okay, no doubt I see 40-50% from the peak. Okay, but I don't see another 40% from where they are today. With respect to house prices going down with 40%, within the next year, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And they are only the terms are only for 6 months at a time. They're not doing 1 full year terms.
So they're limiting their exposure with 6-month terms.
That's right. And you're basically dealing with people that are in a difficult spot, but they have equity in their house. They still have gainful employment, but they can't go to the bank and get what they need because of, number one, credit rating, number two, they're over leveraged on their credit cards, so on and so forth. There's a number of different things that are going on.
Wow.
But it's a very specific product. And I think I'm going to do it because it's a nice return on the money. I haven't decided 100% yet, but I mean 12%, that's pretty good.
Well, I wish you very, very much luck in that venture, but it's kind of scary. I mean, yeah, you got all the contingencies in place to protect your money and to protect your but this, I mean, to float, it's almost like you're floating $200,000, and that's what's scary. You know what I'm saying?
Right, and the only thing, I need to figure out what their end game is, because I need to understand why they're doing this. And the only logical answer to them is, we know these people will pay back the money because they have the capacity to do so, unless everything goes to shit, and then basically, well, then you're selling the house and you're done and you're dealt with. However, if they are running this business model for the purposes of throwing people out on the street, I want nothing of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, but people, I'm just afraid that people will fall behind because 10% on 100 large or 200 large, that's a lot of vig, right?
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
that's a lot of juice. So I don't know what this like. I mean, that's like I said, it's like the most I'd probably float would be like 30 large, but I would never float like 200 large. Like I get it. You seem convinced by it, that you see it's a good working model, and yet you might be helping somebody too. But I don't know, man. I just see a very shaky foundation, man. A just very shaky foundation. That's just me.
I do too. I do as well. All I'm saying is, from a business standpoint, it's great. However, how great is it? Are all these loans destined to fail? And these guys are just basically going to kick all these people out of their houses? If that's the case, I'm not going to sign up for that. That's ridiculous. I don't need a 12% return on my money like that. It's just not worth it. But if it's truly to help people out and there is a market for it, for a 6-month term, somebody's in between, certain financial situations or whatever it may be, hey, by all means. And all signs point that if anybody's going to take a 10 or 12% interest on a loan,
Hold on a sec. I got Demise Music and Entertainment here in the comment section. If you can, buddy, go down to Fresno, old house, affordable housing in California. Yeah, maybe do a drive-by with your camera. Do some filming in Fresno. Show us what's going on down there, if you can. Demise Music and Entertainment. Upload it to your channel. We'll do a video with you next week on the housing crisis to give us an update on what's happening in California there, in the San Jose area / yeah, he's commenting it's terrible, Mike. Yeah, just do some drive-by video, man. Just drive by, nice and slow. Do some video and just kind of give us a lowdown on what's going on. Maybe put some of your royalty-free music down there. Well, when you get a chance, it's 2.5 hours. But get down to San Francisco if you can. I know it's 45 minutes away. Maybe get down there for us. Demise Music. Maybe do some videos on what's going on in the streets there. Is there really poo on the streets in San Francisco? I'd like to know. So, and vomit. Please do some videos. Your channel will grow, and we will be informed properly because we know who we're talking to here. So it's different. We know each other personally. It's different, right? And yeah. Okay, Steve, continue.
Yeah, no problem. But that's pretty much about it, Mike. There's lots of stuff that's coming on the market. Organized real estate, like I said, is claiming that everything's going to be fine and things are going to, continue onwards and upwards and, rainbows and unicorns. It's actually laughable when you think about it. But the unemployment sector, with respect to new construction jobs, subdivisions, so on and so forth, that is deteriorating very quick, very fast.
Steve, can you tell me the story about those guys that dress up in cheap suits and tell people online that if they don't buy now, they'll never own anything? What happened to those guys?
Well, I mean, you're going to get guys that are on there that are organized real estate and speculators and stuff like that, and they will do everything in their power to single-handedly, get out to their target audience or prospective audience and tell them what they truly believe in. And a lot of real estate agents, unless they're, seasoned agents that have been in the business for 15, 20 years plus, they haven't seen a downturn.
No, they haven't. No.
So, I have certain people, or one individual that I know, he will not talk about any negative connotation towards the real estate market. He is a real estate agent, but he didn't believe me 6 to 8 months ago when I said interest rates are going to continue to rise. He didn't believe me when I told them, when I told him in 2017 the market's going to top out. We're going to see a lot of things start to happen. He didn't want to believe that Toronto will go ahead and implement a foreign buyer tax. He didn't didn't want to believe any of it.
Yeah.
And it all came to fruition. And he refuses to have a conversation with me. He will, he'll put out his listings, do this, do that, spend all kinds of money getting it for, proper, photography in there and videography and all this crazy stuff to market the product. And all I'm seeing on his listings is either he's taking it off and then he's putting it back on, or he's going ahead and doing multiple open houses. He'll go and, he'll bring a property, if it's listed at $1.8 million, he'll bring it down to $1.1 million, have an open house, hold off on offers. He's trying every game. He's throwing out all the stops.
Yeah, I see that. I see a lot of them working at fast food restaurants, too. There's a very important question here from Anon in Australia. Where is Kevin Thompson today, Steve?
Kevin Thompson is probably in the psych ward because he's over-leveraged and lost his shirt, his shoes, and his pants in the stock market crash.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, oh, yes. Okay, I got that. All right, yeah. Because he's not in the comments today, and I'm kind of concerned because, yeah, I'm kind of concerned, yeah, Kevin Thompson, good old KT. Yeah, I hope he's...
Or he's lost so much, and he's leveraged his houses to the point of no return to invest in the stock market, and now he's got to figure out what he's going to do, and he's got to pay back these huge lines of credit because he's been living the life of Riley, and now he doesn't know where to turn because he's got to pay back all these bad debts. Not to mention his house is probably declining in value as we speak.
Yeah, as we're speaking right now, I wish we could have some sort of a gauge, like a speedometer gauge, to kind of pinpoint where it's at and how it's moving down and how it's losing. That'd be actually really nice. So we could have it. We'll call it the Kevin Thompson a property value gauge. Yeah.
Kevin Thompson will absolutely have to be shopping at the food bank and eating at the soup kitchen for him to come to terms with reality.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, I just don't. I don't feel. I mean, I feel for the guy because he's a regular on the show, and I hope the best for everybody, right? Always. And sometimes some of these downturns are good in life because you learn very good values that you could pass down, right?
Absolutely, and it just actually reminded me there was Lord Humangus. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Anyways. Mr. Lord said Kevin will default. In actual fact, I had a conversation with a few finance guys, and they brought this up the other week, and I should have told you this. And they did the math on all the open Canadian mortgages that had less than 50% equity in it. Taking the house price and then basically lowering it literally by approximately 14%. Okay, because they're pricing in houses are being appraised at approximately 15% less than what the market value is.
Yes.
Don't ask me why they're doing that. I would presume that the bank is forecasting that the house is not going to be worth what it is today, and they're safeguarding themselves. But then again,
they're just hedging.
That said, they said something really interesting about defaults. And they came up with a number of approximately 73% of people have already single-handedly defaulted on their mortgages without having to default on them.
Wow.
In other words, the equity in their house versus what they owe back to creditors versus they did this cockamamie calculation versus what they actually have in the bank as liquid in terms of actual hard cash investments, whatever you want to call it, so on and so forth. And yeah, it was over 70%.
Yeah, that's huge. That's you know why? Because a lot of people took equity out of their homes to buy other homes because they wanted to jump on this. This bandwagon, right? And
yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of people got greedy, and that's what it boils down to in the end, greed. And why people won't be getting any new mortgages going forward is because they just can't get the lending. That no one will lend to them, period. And that's where we're sitting right now. So I don't. Do you think, I want to ask you, stock turmoil, could it continue?
Just before we go there, Mike, I just want to clarify. That was only that in terms of 73%. That 73% was only based on the people that had less than 50% equity in their house. Okay, that's not all of Canadians, so on and so forth. So less than 50% of mortgages within one financial institution. That's not all of financial institutions. They merely took their book of business. And then 73% of all mortgages they had on the book with less than 50% equity in it was basically, that's how they calculated the numbers. 73% of them had a very, very high probability of defaulting or basically have already defaulted and are just kind of pumping along and, trying to keep their head above water.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. It makes sense when you put it on paper and actually take a step back and look at the plan. It actually comes together, right? So
Absolutely.
So next question: stock turmoil, is it going to continue? What do you think?
I think trade has a very, very high impact and influence on certain things, especially within the U.S. and China. China's in a lot of trouble, especially with their reserves, and whatnot. That said, I think turmoil will continue for at least the rest of this trading week. The markets overseas right now have already opened up, and it was in the comment section, and I checked it out as well. I think it was Peter. Peter had said that it already opened up negative. Peter, can you just confirm that number there? You said it. I didn't bother checking or corroborating it, but that said, Peter said that things are kind of sort of moving along in terms of adjusting accordingly with respect to the things going negative. I don't think it's going to be a severe bloodbath, but then again, who knows? I think the rest of this trading week is going to be in negative territory. What do you think, Mike?
I'm looking at it right now. Asian stocks are crumbling. Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Tokyo all fall more than 4%. This was posted 4 minutes ago. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index is down 3.51% over the mainland. The Shanghai Composite, Shenzhen Composite both opened the day with declining, exceeding 3%. Both the Dow and S&P 500 posted their biggest one-day drops early February, while the Nasdaq notched its largest single-day sell-off since June 24, 2016. As a late morning, the Dow Jones Industrial Average features pointed to an implied often 335.74 points lower. Asian markets fell sharply Thursday morning, while the stock indexes in Shanghai and Shenzhen, Tokyo are all tumbling more than 4%. So the drop right now in 4%. So this is the Nikkei. Let me open that in new tab. The Hang Seng. I used to have stocks in these. I used to play the China stock market. So right now it's dropped. So it's down 4.24% this morning when the market opened a few minutes ago here. And that is what I got right now. So it's not a complete runoff. So let's see what happens. It might correct back to February of early this year. So you might see February early this year numbers in correction, or late March numbers, probably by the end of this week or the next week coming ahead. But I don't see it going any lower than that.
Do you have any tech stock? Because Lord Human Gus, I'm just going to call him Lord. Lord just brought up something very interesting, and he's absolutely right on the money in terms of tech stocks are just pooping the bed right now.
No, the last tech stock I had was Nintendo, and I sold it when that Pokemon Go thing went viral. And then my other tech stock that I had was BlackBerry, and I sold that like friggin' 5 years ago. So I got no tech stocks. No, I got no tech. I just do oil and marijuana.
Yeah, marijuana got hit a little bit, but it's up again.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I checked mine. I'm only down like 1%, not even 1%. So I'm not crying. I'm not crying right now. I'm okay. Yeah, so we'll see what happens. Lots of volatility in the markets last couple of hours. So I'm going to keep this open and keep kind of follow what's happening in Asia. This is a live thing here. So let's go here to the day here. Yeah, it's dropping.
Yeah, so typically by 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time or 12 midnight Tijuana time, as you call it, is a good indication on where other markets are going to be at. So if China is showing, pretty bad negative gains or whatnot, you're going to basically go ahead and that's going to kind of sort of mirror what's going to happen at the start of trading in North America.
Yeah. So I just hope Kevin Thompson didn't take all this equity out of his house and threw it into these stocks.
Well, I mean, who knows? I don't even know who the guy is. I have no idea who he is. We've asked him to call in. Who knows? Who knows who it could be? I mean, he could be, he could be a real estate agent. He could, he could just be a guy that owns way too much real estate and, can't fathom to see it go down in value.
Yeah, I guess that could be it. Yeah, that could be it. So I'm going to keep an eye on this. It's down 4.31% opening. It could.
Shanghai just hit 3%.
Oh, it just dropped. Okay, this one's 4.31%. So it's moving. It's seeing some movement, which is good, and it's not a sell-off. Because if it was a sell-off, you'd be seeing this the point. Oh, it just went down another 0.32%. So are we looking at a sell-off, Steve? A runoff on the markets? Are we seeing a runoff here?
Yeah. Whoever this Peter or Trezinger or whatever, he seems like a pretty sharp chap. Keep an eye on him, Mike. I think he knows something more than he leads on to be. I don't think he's just some dummy like me. I think this guy actually might know quite more than he leads on to believe. If he's checking the markets and doing this and doing that, and he's up to the minute, something tells me he's got some skin in the game and he's watching things pretty closely. So yeah, Peter, chime in if you want to kind of sort of tell us who you are, what you do, because again, Mike, yeah, he probably knows something.
Yeah. So I'm gonna create a mock watch list on this CNBC here, and I'm gonna create a mock watch list and follow maybe 5 or 6 major stocks in Japan, and see where they're gonna go in the next 5 to 10 days. It'd be interesting to see. I always make mock or fake or whatever you want to call it watch lists to kind of see and gauge where some of the markets are going in different industry and what the weighted average is in some of the different industries.
Yeah, I've never looked at it that way. That's actually pretty cool. I might take a look at that myself. But I think I've come to terms with the fact that I'm diversifying and doing what I need to do. But I think I'm swimming in waters that I shouldn't be, Mike. And from time to time, you have to give yourself a reality check. And quite frankly, I think I need to kind of sort of get out of the whole stocks for a while and just sit back and do what I need to do. I did well with marijuana stocks.
Do you remember that marijuana stock ticker I gave you? It went up today.
Oh, did it?
It went up. I think it went up 3% today.
There you go. So Peter's a family man. He owns his house outright. He's got no debt. Seems to be that he's pretty happy about that. And he lives for his 2 daughters. And he's basically going to give everything he has to his daughters. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty cool. That's awesome.
Peter's asking.
Yeah, buddy,
Peter's
you
saying
get a second job, buddy, because you got 2 weddings to pay for. I'm just joking.
Yeah, Peter's saying, Mike, you do marijuana? Nope, I don't do drugs ever. I don't even care for. The only drug I do is alcohol once in a while. I do drink a good, nice, stiff whiskey when I'm usually maybe talking business and stuff. I usually have a nice Kentucky bourbon whiskey, a single malt. Sometimes I have a good. I just like whiskey. I don't drink. I mean, I drink maybe once every 3 months, Steve. So yeah, I don't drink. I rarely ever drink. So that's one thing about me is I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. I spend my disposable income on my family and travels and all kinds of cool stuff. You know.
Well, Mike, I drink. I drink to make people seem more interesting.
Well, you don't have to drink when you're hanging out with me.
That's very true, Mike. Very true.
Yeah.
And I saw your video that you had a plumber over to your house and you were changing out your toilets and doing a few other things. That was pretty cool. I'll have to come and check that out as soon as I possibly can, buddy.
Yeah, when the weather gets good in the springtime, maybe April, May, come on down and rent a car and come up and spend a few days here at the house. We'll go to the lake. We'll do things. We'll go fishing. We'll go hunting. We'll go paragliding. We'll go all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, sounds like a plan. That would be awesome. So, Mike, final question. Them raising rates, the Bank of Canada raising rates on the 24th. Obviously, that the markets have kind of sort of priced that in. Very, very likely to happen. That said, I've asked you this before. Do you think we will see another rate hike before 2018?
Well, here's the deal. If we don't raise interest rates in this next rate hike cycle, guess what's going to happen? You're going to see a huge devaluing in our currency. You're going to see it drop anywhere from 1 to 4 cents overnight.
You completely cut out there. All I heard was. Anyways, say that again, Mike.
If we don't raise interest rates in the next meeting, what's going to happen is you're going to see our currency devalue 1 to 4 cents overnight. 1 to 4 cents.
Oh yeah, I can see that happening. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I see happening. That's what I see happening right off the bat. Our money loses value overnight, right overnight, if we don't raise interest rates in the next meeting.
Well, I mean, I do agree. It's going to be one wild ride to see how things play out. I think this October 24th rate hike is going to solidify to a lot of people that interest rates are not going to come down anytime soon. Interest rates are not going to go negative, that's for sure.
They can't.
I heard that the other day, and I just laughed at him. And then I found out he was a real estate agent. But anyways, they'll give anybody a real estate license, or so it appears today. But that said, I think this will kind of solidify and really, really, truly make people stop and think and say, wow, rates have gone up, 4 or 5 and, 6 times, whatever, depending on where you're looking at it. And it's, they're not coming down, and we're going to see at least another 2 or 3 rate hikes in 2019. We have to. Like you said, with respect to our currency being devalued, and also the U.S., the Federal Reserve is hiking like crazy.
Well, look at Australia. 4 or 5 weeks ago, they passed on the rate hike. Guess what happened? Devalued their currency by 5 cents.
Yeah, I see where things are going. Australia's at a very, very difficult spot because if they raise interest rates, the arse end out of their real estate market is just going to frickin' implode. If they don't raise rates, their currency is going to continue to go lower. So they have to find the happy middle ground.
Well, the thing is they have to. Yeah, well, the thing is they have to purchase. They have to purchase goods. They have to import, and they're just going to continue buying imports on a devalued currency.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what you're saying. Now, with respect to Canada and U.S., obviously, we did get a NAFTA 2.0. USMCA, whatever you want to call it, which is a good thing to a certain extent. However, there still is, steel and aluminum tariffs and a few other things. But I'm not an economist. I don't pretend to be one. I am not, legally able to nor qualified to give any financial advice.
Yeah.
I just kind of sort of call it how I see it. We're just talking, Mike. We're just a bunch of guys.
We're just talking. We're just, we're discussing. I'm neither am I. I'm no economist. I don't know anything. All I do is I like to put my money where my mouth is when I'm sure of something, and I've been doing very well consistently through my life. So, I just, like I said, I put my money where my mouth is. A lot of these economists that go out there and speak, a lot of them don't even have a portfolio, but they're talking the talk. And you know what they're doing? They're just regurgitating the garbage they were taught in school, and they're not actually telling where the trends are headed, or not giving insight on where the trend is headed right now.
I agree.
Because a lot of these diploma-carrying people that carry these diplomas, a lot of them were forecasting housing will always go up forever. And what kind of credibility do you get from that?
Yeah.
So, a lot of people a lot of people that have a diploma. I don't have a diploma, but a lot of people that have them believed in this housing scheme, and they believed it. Did you hear the caller earlier about New Zealand?
No, I didn't. I wasn't on.
Oh, you have to hear what the caller was telling me about New Zealand. It was out of control. I'm gonna actually segregate that piece of video late tomorrow night when this video is fully uploaded onto YouTube. I'm gonna segregate that piece of video and I'm gonna upload that. That's gonna go up right away. I want people to know what's happening in New Zealand with the black mold, and it's disgusting, Steve. You better go back to the semi-beginning of the show and hear what's going on, because a lot of people actually left the transmission because it was depressing.
Actually, I caught the tail end of that when you said black mold. Okay, yeah, that was okay. I'm gonna go back and actually listen to that in its entirety when you do that.
I honestly thought we had it bad, but now in New Zealand they have houses with $50,000 of building material, and they're selling for like millions of dollars.
Really?
I'm not exaggerating. So, yeah, gotta cover all bases. Yeah, that's what's gonna be happening. That's why everything's happening, Steve. But I never thought that New Zealand was this bad off. I really did not know, man. I did not know it was this bad until the caller called in. So, anyway, Steve, I'm gonna let you go because I'm gonna go to sleep and Get some sleep, Steve. It's pretty late there in Ontario. Get some sleep, and we'll talk sometime during the week. And if you want to do Mike in the Night, and maybe we could cover where Bitcoin is headed. It looks like Bitcoin's heading nowhere right now, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm meeting up with a couple of finance guys and some of the accountants and stuff like that on Friday or Saturday. So maybe I'll join you live for Mike in the Night on Saturday, and I might have something good to add to your show.
Good.
It all matters what you guys have to say. The last time I spoke to them, the fear of God was setting in. Wow.
Well, it's not my show, it's our show. Everybody in the show, everybody in the comments, even Lord Humongous, Peter, this is our show. Without you guys, I don't exist. So just take it like that. It's our show. Like I said, without you guys, I don't even exist. So let's leave it like that.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, thanks again for having me on the show, and we'll talk real soon. And you have a great rest of the evening.
Okay.
Take care.
God bless. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
So that was Steve the Plumber, guys. So, okay, guys. Yeah, this is getting very interesting where things are headed right now, and yeah, I just can't believe how far off or far off bad people living in New Zealand are right now. It's almost like unimaginable, but it is. Oh yeah, Untamed Kid. Hey Mike, Travis, how long are you gonna be streamed? Because I'm gonna do a stream in 30 minutes. Can I get a shout out? Yeah, Untamed Kid in the comments. He lives here in Merritt. He comes by my store every other day and checks on me. And he's a good kid. He works hard. Check out his channel. It's more video games and stuff, but he's a good kid. And this is everybody's channel. This is everybody's platform. I don't moderate people. I don't have an operator moderating and telling people what they're allowed to talk about here on this show. This is everybody comes out and just basically tells it how it is. And Mike in the Night might get in a little bit of hot water because I got some guests on there telling what it is, how it is, and what's happening. And a lot of people are disagreeing or are calling it a racist. Nowadays, you're a racist if you disagree with anything in the status quo. Anything you bring up conversation is you're considered racist. So that's what's happening. It's a race thing. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, guys, thanks for joining in. If you held in through the whole show, thanks so much. Mike in the Night this Saturday. I'll see you guys Saturday. And have yourselves a great week. I'm going to break the show apart tomorrow or the day after and put up some clips from today's show. I got some really good callers. Let me know what you guys think. Comment below. Thanks for watching. And thanks for donating. Guys, don't forget to donate. I want to thank a couple of people there. Perzai there in the comments who sent me, I think it was $50 or 20. I can't remember. But thanks, guys, for $50. And that was really nice. That's nice. That's nice that people are looking out, and that's... the transmission, it works out to about 13 cents an hour, 14 cents an hour, and I like doing it. That's why I do it. If I was doing this for money, I wouldn't be doing this. I like doing this. Okay, guys, take care, Moby. Take care, Steve. Take care, Untamed Kid. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Lord Among Us. Thanks, Sunny GC. Thanks, Joe Beaver. Thanks, everybody, for the comments. And I want to have everybody in the comment section on the show. Everybody. Add me to Skype, Mike Martins, 1980. And then we're going to get working on it first next week on Mike in the Night. We're going to have working on it if she's not working. I want to get working on it because I want to know what's happening with the minimum wage there. She'll give us an insight on what's happening in Dedmonton or Edmonton, whatever you want to call it, in Alberta. Thanks for watching. Signing off, Mike Martins. Godspeed.